T. Welcome to the Command Post Live. Post up and take command. I, of course, am your Commander-in-Chief, Louie T. Thank you for joining me tonight. I wanted to pose the question to you guys tonight, kind of talk about why I feel the way that I feel, and kind of get your feedback as to where you stand as we head into training camp. So all the OTAs and mini camps are done. The team will report back to Ashburn for training camp July 26th, and training camp will commence the 27th, and then we're off and we're running. You know, from that point forward, we'll be really focusing on what's going on in the day-to-day grind of training camp as we prepare for the preseason. I'm not putting as much stock into the preseason this year as I did last year, because I see how the league is going now and where it's trending and how teams are starting to kind of, you know, not necessarily disregard the preseason as much as not put as much emphasis on it, because they rather be healthy for the regular season. And, you know, I think teams that prepare for the preseason to be, you know, ho-humish, like the Rams did, like the Chargers did a season ago, I think they'll continue to do that. But for the teams like Washington and, you know, other teams with more of an old school approach, and Washington has already, you know, come out and said, and Ron Rivera in particular has already come out and said, we're not doing joint practices this year, which is really vital. If you're not going to have, you know, your players play in the preseason games, you must have those practices where you're going up against another team, you're getting to run your stuff, you're getting looks, so you can get those guys work. Being that we're not having joint practices, I can't imagine us treating the preseason any differently than we have in the past, which is, you know, you play your starters, maybe a drive or two in the first preseason game, and then in the second preseason game. I think that's the new dress rehearsal now, because you're probably going to see your players play every bit of a quarter to a quarter and a half, maybe even a half of football. And then, you know, you don't see them the remainder of that game. Depending on how they look, obviously you're not happy about the first half performance. Maybe they come out for the first possession of the third quarter, but you won't see them at all in the third preseason game. That's what Ron Rivera did last year, as you recall. Remember, the Baltimore Ravens did not do that, and they lost J.K. Dobbins for the entire season. So I think that is something that's going to come into play when you start discussing the preseason, and some teams concerned about putting their players out on the field. And so you're going to see, I think, more and more teams, especially after the Rams won the Super Bowl, having, you know, pretty much punted on the entire preseason last year. I think you're going to see more and more teams adopt that philosophy, especially when you see younger and younger coaches coming into the league as head coaches. For the older generation, like Lovie Smith, he's going to continue to use the preseason as a opportunity to prepare for the upcoming regular season. Same with Ron Rivera and some of the older, you know, head coaches and some of those guys with a older mindset. That said, we're getting prepared for training camp, you know, and a couple of things that I, you know, didn't talk about that I want to talk about tonight, and why I feel the way that I feel about the upcoming season. So I posed a question to you guys in the title of this video, and essentially it is as follows. On a scale of 1 to 10, where do you rank your optimism, essentially? How do you feel about this team heading into training camp? And maybe it's not optimism. Maybe it's pessimism. Maybe you're a 4 on a scale of 1 to 10. That's not optimistic at all. But, you know, for me, the number right now the first number that popped in my head on that scale of 1 to 8, 1 being, you know, pessimistic as possibly as humanly possible, and really don't feel good about this season at all. We're going to stink and be one of the worst teams in football. So you subscribe to the Adam Rank, you know, way of thinking. Or 10 being the highest level of optimism. You think that this team has a chance to win, you know, 12, 13 games. They're going to be one of the best teams in football. They're going to dominate this schedule, win this division, and, you know, have a home field advantage, at least in the first round of the postseason. And you think that the sky could potentially be the limit. That's a 10. I'm clearly not there yet. Um, the number that first popped into my head was an 8. However, I'm not willing to go as high as an 8. There are too many things that I still have in the back of my mind, reminding me constantly, as a fan of this team, that things can and usually do go wrong. And so I'm fighting those, nagging little reminders in the back of my head, because I do want to give them a chance to start fresh. Every season is a new season. It feels like that is the case for every organization except this one. But that's not true. Every season is a new season. Every opportunity is a brand new opportunity. And I think I think I'm a little bit more optimistic because of the brand new, um, outlook on this team in terms of name and the look and the feel. And so I'm going to give them an opportunity to create new memories instead of, dragging the old ones from the past along with us. It's hard as a fan because you can't erase what you've seen over your lifespan, whether it's, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, or, more years as a fan. You can't erase that. Some of it you don't want to erase. If you're a fan spanning, 40 years and you've seen the glory days and, us winning 3 Super Bowls in a span of 9 years, you don't want to erase that. But pretty much everything thereafter, you would love to be able to erase and rewrite your own history with this organization, because it's been a mess, especially the last 22 years, specifically since Daniel Snyder has taken over this team. So I really feel like it's a 7 for me right now. I want to go 8 so bad. I think I'm trending towards 8, but the number is 7 for me right now, and here's why. Number one, first of all, 7 is a good number. Just in case you were wondering, that's a really good number. That's really high for a team that has won 7 games in each of its last 2 seasons. And, obviously the quarterback position with Carson Wentz gives you a little bit of hope, but you don't know what you're getting out of Carson Wentz. We have no idea what he's going to be for this football team. We can't assume he's going to be excellent for the Commanders and he's going to just jump right in here. Brand new offense for him. This isn't like Indianapolis where he was walking back into the offense that he was accustomed to for the first, 4 years of his career in Philadelphia. That's not the case here. This is a brand new offense, all new language for him. And so he is, and he's talked about it numerous times. This is a difficult offense to pick up. There's words and there's numbers. And so this system is a little bit different than what he's accustomed to. So from that standpoint, I don't expect him to just jump in here, hit the ground running, take off, and never look back. There are going to be some bumps in the road, and they may come early in the season. I'm hoping that we limit the amount of bumps in the road because we can't afford to get off to a slow start. We've talked about this. We talked about this last year when I said, look, the schedule gets really rocky right around week 5 or 6 when you start seeing, playoff type teams, Saints, Chiefs, Packers, and, then you get the Bucks and the Seahawks, and all those teams were coming on the schedule, and you didn't have a chance to really catch your breath. If you got off to a 1-2, 1-3 start last year, you were in trouble. But luckily enough for us, we got off to a 2-2 start, but that didn't last long, and we lost like 4 in a row after that. That said, this year it's even more critical that we get off, more vital that we get off to a fast start because of the teams that we're playing. You don't get Detroit later on in the season. I don't want Detroit later in the season. I don't want Jacksonville later in the season. Even if that means they could be defeated by then, know that they stink, and you could, maybe get them in a much more vulnerable position. They're going to have a lot of confidence and hope in week 1. The Lions are going to be confident and hopeful in week 2. I don't give a shit. These are opportunities to get one in the left-hand column early in the season, stack them up like bricks, and give us a chance to really, get out in front of the win-loss column and have a little bit of cushion should we hit a little bump in the road or a snag somewhere down the line and lose 2 out of 3 or 3 out of 4. You built up a little bit of equity in the win column, and all of a sudden you can endure a little bit of a bump in the road. So we got to take advantage of week 1 against Jacksonville, week 2 against Detroit. Hell, even week 3 at home against Philadelphia. We got to take advantage of that. That's a home division game. I don't give a shit who it's against. It's home. You got to take advantage of that. So I like the team, the makeup of this team, Rivera talked about this, and this is something that resonates with me because last year Rivera was very poignant in mentioning that this team seemed to be very, very immature and that they seemed to have felt like they had arrived. And we saw a lot of that manifest itself on the football field. And that was worrisome last year. The fact that the coach felt comfortable enough to come out and say what he said and then have it ring true. I told you, Rivera, one thing he's done since he's gotten here is he hasn't lied to us, and he's really worn his emotions on his sleeve, and he's been upfront and very candid and frank with us. So with that, I can appreciate, that level of honesty from him. And so when he says things, whether it be, positive or negative, I tend to listen and I take it to heart. I take it at its, at its full, word. I take him at his word when he says something because he hasn't lied to me yet. I've pretty much told you guys this. Ron hasn't lied to us since he's gotten here. There were, some murky times when he first got here. But I blame that on the cancer, man. The whole, not wanting to, call his timeouts at the end of games because he was trying to keep his players healthy, this, that, and the third. That was all during the chemo session. I chalk that up to him just, not really fully being himself. That said, outside of that little stretch, he's been pretty much forthright, and really candid and blunt with us as fans, and probably the same with the team. And so when he says this offseason that this feels different, this group is a lot more mature, and the young guys that they were looking to have that growth from, they're seeing it mentally. They're seeing it from their approach to practice. Again, we don't know what's what yet. I mean, we haven't put on the pads. We have no idea if the growth that they're seeing in these off-season workouts and, mini camp and things of that nature are going to carry over when the bullets start flying for real. We have no idea. But the fact that he feels a lot more confident in the maturity of this team, the mental makeup of this team, the talent. And I think that's one of the most important things is that the talent is different. And let me just say this. I want you to assume when you're giving me a number, when you're telling me how you feel about this team, I want you to assume that Terry McLaurin has gotten his deal already, because I'm making that assumption because I told you guys this from Jump Street. Terry's going to get his money. I haven't waffled. I haven't wavered, and nor have I, nor will I. Okay, he's going to get his deal before training camp starts. I'm very confident. I will be shocked. I will be shocked if he doesn't get his deal before the start of training camp. Okay, that's how confident I am. I will be absolutely floored and shocked if Terry McLaurin doesn't have his deal, long-term deal, by the time we get to training camp. So assume that Terry's here. You don't have to say, well, if Terry's here, no, assume Terry's here and he's here on a long-term deal, okay? Because that's how I see that situation playing itself out. So I'm assuming with what I'm giving you, I'm assuming Terry's here on a long-term deal. That's not something we have to worry about. So I listen to Ron, and he talks about the maturity of this team and the maturation that he's seen some of these players go through and the growth that he's seen from some of the young guys that now have to step up and become leaders on this football team. I listen to him talk about a position in particular that I told you I wasn't quite sure about. I had some qualms about and some reservations. And he talked about some of the guys that he's seen. Now, again, pads have to come on, and you got to see these guys out at practice when you're allowed to do a little bit more than you are at OTAs and minicamp. But he talked about the cornerback position in particular. And I'm a bigger Danny Johnson fan than probably most of you out there are. Okay, I think that's pretty safe to say, and it's a safe assumption to make because I'm constantly talking about Danny Johnson and the value that he brings to this football team, not just as a defensive player, not just as a special teams player, but also as a guy that can help you in the returns game if need be. So I'm a big Danny Johnson fan, and I love the fact that he got an opportunity to play in the slot last year as a nickel corner, and I'm looking forward to seeing him getting more opportunities this season. Now, I don't know how comfortable they are with him being out there. Last year, I felt like he needed to have more opportunities. I thought he earned the right to have more opportunities, and they did their best to whisk him back to the bench as soon as they got their guys healthy again. So I'd like to see them give Danny Johnson a fighting chance to play. That said, Ron Rivera went out of his way to talk specifically about the cornerback position and the growth he's seen from Danny Johnson, the growth that he's seen from Jeremy Reeves, the growth that he's seen from, Benjamin St-Juste, and a lot of these players that they may be banking on. He even went out of his way to mention 7th round pick rookie Christian Christian Holmes. I always forget this guy's name. Christian Holmes, out of Oklahoma State, that he said, look, this guy looks physical. He looks the part. Of course, we don't have pads on, but I think he's going to bring a level of physicality, which I told you that's his calling card, is him being physical at the line of scrimmage, not being afraid to come up and tackle. He's not the fastest guy in the world, but in this defensive scheme that we play under Jack Del Rio, it's a lot of zone coverage, and he was more of a man-to-man guy at Oklahoma State. So there may be a bit of a transitional period for him adjusting to that, but still, I think this scheme may ultimately fit his skill set because he's not a overly fast guy. So I think he might be better served in a, bump and run type of situation or press and bail where he's in zone, kind of keeping everything in front of him. So Ron was talking about how anxious he is to see Christian Holmes get out there, because one of the positions I talked about us not having the best depth at was cornerback. And I do expect them, to keep Corn Elder around as a veteran, similar to the way that they had Roberts as a veteran last year. Because of the lack of depth, we saw a corner in Torrey McTyer come out of nowhere and ultimately have a major role early in the season for this team before he tore his ACL against the Atlanta Falcons on that Hail Mary at the end of the football game. So I don't know if we'll have that this year because of a guy like Christian Holmes, who may provide them with that depth that they need on the back end of the cornerback room, and kind of box out some guys that may be trying to find their way in to this roster, because I think that's one of those positions where there is a little bit of space and opportunity for some. There are positions on this team where if you weren't drafted, you're undrafted, you're looking to try to make a team, this isn't the team for you. Their receiver is one of those positions. If we stay relatively healthy, you don't have a shot at receiver on this team, which is why they told AGG, bro, you probably should move to tight end because you don't have a shot at making this team at wide receiver. We're loaded at wide receiver right now. At tight end, if you're not a drafted guy or you're not a converted, tight end like AGG, what's my man's name that we just drafted from Cole Turner. Like, these are all converted tight ends. Cole Turner was a wide receiver. He's now a tight end. Obviously, AGG was a wide receiver. He's now a tight end. Logan Thomas was a converted tight end from quarterback. So these are all guys that have been converted from different positions. You got a guy who's never played the tight end position, whose first experience and exposure to the position or football for that matter was last year in Samis Reyes. So that's a deep group, but it's also a young group that's continuing to learn with a brand new tight ends coach, this year. No more Pete Hayner at the position. So again, I don't think you have a chance at cracking the roster as a tight end on this football team. We got enough of those guys here. I don't know if you have a chance at cracking this team at the running back position. We're healthy. I don't think there's a space here for you. You got Jared Patterson is, I think, the odd man out right now, unless they keep 4 running backs. I think they're going to keep 3 personally. And you got 3. You got J.D. McKissick, you got Antonio Gibson, and you got the third round pick, Brian Robinson out of Alabama. So as far as I'm concerned, that's your 3 backs. And then Jared Patterson is on the outside looking in. I'm not saying that he'll be around. Someone could poach him from our roster if he doesn't make the team, which I don't think he's going to make the football team ultimately when it's all said and done. But if he doesn't, get poached away, he's the 4th guy. I think they still like the Williams kid that was here last year. So again, I just don't see you having a chance to crack the roster at the running back position either. However, I look at, other positions, linebacker and cornerback in particular, and I'm saying there is a space and an opportunity there if you're an undrafted guy looking to try to make an impression and crack a roster, there is an opportunity here in Washington. However, I think that cornerback window is starting to shrink because of guys like Danny Johnson in particular and Christian Holmes, because again, you already have 3 corners. I think you're keeping 5 corners. You want a 6th guy there in the event of an emergency. So if that glass needs to be broken, you break in case of an emergency and you pull out a, fill in the blank, whether it's Corn Elder or it's a Christian Holmes, a guy you drafted in the 7th round. Again, I think they're going to keep 5. Right now, to me, those 5 guys are going to be Benjamin St-Juste, Kendall Fuller, William Jackson III, Danny Johnson, and Corn Elder. Those are your 5 corners right now. However, we'll see what Christian Holmes is able to do, because Christian Holmes, if there's a tie between Christian Holmes and Corn Elder, they're going to give the nod to the rookie, because they've shown us that already, that if there's a tie between a veteran and a young guy, they're going to give the young guy the opportunity because of the upside. Okay, that's what they're on. And I don't have a problem with that. Neither should you. But, if it's not a tie, if there is a bit of space between the performance of Corn Elder, a veteran in this league that knows how to get it done, and a guy that's still kind of figuring things out in Christian Holmes, then they'll keep Corn Elder and they'll try to, get a 7th round pick in Christian Holmes onto the practice squad, which nobody's going to be fighting more likely than not for Christian Holmes, right? He should be able to be brought back as a practice squad guy. So we'll see what happens there. But I like all of a sudden the depth at corner, which was a problem for me going into the offseason, and hell, even midway through the offseason, until they brought Danny Johnson back and then drafted Christian Holmes. This was a problem for me. I wasn't happy with the depth. All of a sudden now, I'm starting to feel a lot more comfortable with the cornerback position. And Ron has said, hey, these guys are really making some strides here. So that was really good to hear from Ron Rivera as well. He talked about the safeties, and he talked about Percy Butler. He talked about, the growth that they're seeing from him. And again, how smart of a football player he is and how they expect him to be able to contribute right away. We know how they feel about Bobby McCain, right? And we've heard all offseason about the growth of Derek Forrest, our 5th round pick out of Cincinnati last year. So that's another guy that they're throwing into the mix. And then, of course, you're going to see, what they decide to do with a guy that didn't make the team last year but was hovering around. And, it's a guy that they trust, that's been here, for many years, it feels like now, maybe 3 or 4 years now, and Jeremy Reeves. He's going to get an opportunity. He was one of the guys that saved us in 2020. Didn't play as much last year as I thought he would. But now, with, all the turnover at the safety position, no Landon Collins, no DeShazer Everett, guy like Jeremy Reeves now all of a sudden is one of the veterans back there. He's probably the longest tenured safety on this roster now that I think about it. Who's been here longer than Jeremy Reeves? No one at the safety position. So, DeShazer Everett had that distinction. He's no longer here. Landon Collins is no longer here. Bobby McCain just got here last year. Percy Butler just got here this year. And Derek Forrest just got here last year. And Troy Apke is now a corner. So I think in that safety room, the longest tenured safety is now Jeremy Reeves. So that's a guy Rivera, you're praised for his, smarts, knowing the system, being more comfortable out there, really, running to the football. Now, Rivera also criticized him because he was the one that crashed into De'Ami Brown at practice, and not saying that was the hit that ultimately got Ron Rivera fined $100,000 and docked 2 practices in OTAs in OTA form for 2023. But that was one of the plays that was deemed to be too physical. Absolutely. So he really likes what Jeremy Reeves is bringing to the table. And I'm going to talk about a guy that he brought up, right? So I don't know. So you guys are a lot of times a lot more privy to some of these, undrafted guys. Because I told you, I don't really, put a lot of stock in the undrafted guys because 97% of them aren't going to make NFL rosters. It's just how it goes. It's a small percentage of guys that are undrafted that are going to get opportunities to prove what they can do in this league. And when you've got a roster like ours where there aren't many spots up for grabs, I mean, I just went through 3 positions in particular, but we don't have any space at the quarterback position. Our offensive line is starting to fill up. There may be 1 or 2 spots for grabs there, but that's a position, another positional group rather, that we've pretty much got what we need. I don't know if there's going to be any more outside guys coming in with an opportunity if we stay relatively healthy there. The defensive line definitely could use a little infusion of talent, especially inside at defensive tackle. But there's not many roster spots available for defensive ends on this football team. I think we've got what we need between the guys we've drafted the last 2 years, James Smith-Williams, William Bradley King, Shaka Toney, and then Casey Toohill, throwing him into the mix. And then you sign F.A. Obata. Of course, you've already got Chase Young and Montez Sweat. I don't see there being much more opportunity for expansion there at defensive end. Defensive tackle is where I think they could use a little bit of depth there, but linebacker is clearly a place where you could, make this football team as an undrafted guy or, someone that gets signed off the street, as we get to camp or whatever the case may be. I thought that way about corner. I don't know if I feel that way about corner any longer. And I don't think I feel that way about safety either. So, really, this is not a team where there are a lot of roster spots on the back end of this thing available. There may be 3 or 4 roster spots. I mean, we could probably put together a 53-man roster right now as we sit here on June 23rd. We could probably put together a 53-man roster that will come dangerously close to being what it will be when they announce it, late or early September. So to me, I think there may be, at most 6 roster spots available, probably closer to 4, but somewhere in that neighborhood, 4 to 6 roster spots back into this roster. And again, this is the assumption, if everyone remains healthy, which we know doesn't always take place during training camp and preseason. But if we stay, healthy for the most part, there's only, 4 to 6 roster spots available, if you ask me. So anyway, I digress. Ron talked about a player in Farad Gardner. Okay, so again, I don't really keep up with undrafted guys. This is a guy out of Louisiana Lafayette. 6'1", 215, listed as a linebacker, but they're looking at him in that hybrid, mode of Landon Collins, where he's a tweener, has safety size, but linebacker physicality and capabilities. But more importantly, Ron specifically said, we're going to take a look at him as a Buffalo nickel candidate. So that's a name that, again, when you get, so a question was asked towards the end of Ron's final presser heading into this break that everyone's going to go on. All the coaches are going to have this break. All the players are going to have a break. All staff, everyone's going to take a little bit of a break because this is the last break you're going to get for the next, 6 to 7 months. So Ron was asked about a bevy of guys at the linebacker position, most of them being undrafted, all of them, as a matter of fact, being undrafted. Farad Gardner was one of them. Drew White was another one, from Notre Dame. And he specifically singled out Farad Gardner. Like he disregarded the other 2 that were named and said specifically Farad Gardner is a guy we're intrigued by. He had a groin injury, so he wasn't able to perform at the level that we were looking for. Didn't get to see him as often as we would have liked to. He was back for the final day of minicamp, but he said that's a guy that we're really interested in, that we're going to take a long look at as a Buffalo nickel candidate. He's a big kid. We like him. And that's intriguing to me because, again, anytime a coach goes out of his way to talk about a guy that's undrafted and give you a little bit more than you were asking for, that means that they truly are interested in Farad Gardner, what he brings to the table. And, again, linebacker is one of those positions, as I mentioned, probably the position on this football team that is wide ass open. Like after Jamin Davis and, of course, Cole Holcomb, and probably Khaleke Hudson is a core special teamer at this point. But after those 3 guys, there are no locks at linebacker. I'm pretty sure there are 1 or 2 guys Rivera's really comfortable with, whether it's David Mayo or, the guy they always bring back on special teams. I always forget his damn name. But I'm pretty sure it's, 1 or 2 of those guys that'll be here too. And you probably can lock their ass up on the roster as well if they're healthy. But I still think there's an opportunity for one or two spots at the linebacker position in particular. So if a guy like Farrod Gardner is able to impress, he can make this football team. He could be this year's Torrey McTyer, right? So we'll see what happens. Every year it seems like we have one of these guys that kind of comes out of nowhere. Like 2 years ago, it was Isaiah Wright as an undrafted, rookie that ended up making the football team as a receiver. Now, we were desperate. I wasn't happy about that, but, he did contribute. I can't act as if he didn't. He did contribute to a certain degree as a rookie. But, even going back further, Steven Sims Jr., Cam Sims, these are all guys undrafted, make the football team, end up being huge contributors at some point, whether it be for a short period of time or in the case of a Cam Sims, still here contributing at a relatively high level. So every year it seems like we have one of these guys that comes off of the pace out of nowhere to make the football team, and last year was no different. Again, Torrey McTyer, no one was talking about Torrey McTyer until we got to training camp, and this guy kept making plays. And then, before you know it, you get to the preseason and Torrey McTyer is getting real reps and they're really impressed and he makes the football team. You get one of those dudes every single year, it seems like, with us. And this could be no different. Farrod Gardner could be that guy. That's a name to keep in mind as we get to training camp and see what he brings to the table. And if he's able to stay healthy, 1, 2, impress when he gets opportunities, and 3, make some splash plays that, get him on the radar of the coaches and keeps him there. And then he's got to contribute on special teams. That's got to be his way onto the roster. But we'll see what happens. That's another name Ron brought up and talked a little bit in detail about, which was a surprise to me because, again, I have no idea who this guy, was. And he's on my radar now. So secondary depth could be a little bit better. So that kind of made me feel a little bit better about, that portion of the roster. I think we're fine at safety, as well. Linebacker is still, iffy for a lot of you, but we don't play with, a lot of linebackers on the field anyway. They just got to stay healthy. The main two, Jamin Davis and Cole Holcomb, just have to stay relatively healthy. If they don't, that's when it'll become a real problem for us. So linebacker is something that you can feel a little bit queasy about, and I get it. But because of Ron's confidence in this roster's ability to mature and how far they've come along, because of me listening to these players and listening to how confident they sound and how much more comfortable they are another year in the same system. For as many of you out there that wants to fire Jack Del Rio, wants to fire Scott Turner and this, that, and the third, there is something called continuity. There is something called comfortability, where you're just more comfortable in a system because you've been in it for 3 years now. For some guys, this is all they've known since they've been here. So now they know the system like the back of their hand. For others, it's still a work in progress. For guys that now are going into the second year in this system, they're a lot more comfortable, light years ahead of where they were this time last year when they were just getting here and trying to learn a new system, like a guy in William Jackson III who struggled early in the season last year and really didn't get, comfortable until probably week 10 against Tampa, week 11. So you're seeing, some of that, or at least you're hearing that. We can't say we're seeing anything. We're hearing a lot of that come out and what these guys are saying. You can hear some of these guys talking about how much more comfortable they are. De'Ami Brown is another example of a guy that just seems so much more confident. He lost his confidence. He even said it, and is more comfortable going into year 2 than he was in year number 1. Same with Jamin Davis. So I'm looking forward to seeing some of these guys take that huge leap in year number 2. And the level of talent, the level of competition that we'll have at a bunch of different positions, the depth now that we have on this roster, which is something that I felt like day one, Ron Rivera came in and really did a good job of doing, was building depth on this roster. We didn't have a ton of elite frontline starters, but we had depth. And that's how we won the division in 2020. Even though it was a 7-9 finish, we outlasted the Eagles and the Cowboys and the Giants because we had depth. And, I think that depth is continuing to build and grow, but we're now starting to add what we feel like, guys that have a chance to be elite level talents as starters, which is going to be the difference between, winning 7, 8 games and potentially winning 10, 11, 12 games, is how many elite guys do you have? Guys that are difference makers, that are needle movers. We feel like we're adding more and more of those guys each and every single year. We think we added another one of those guys, maybe even 2 in this year's draft, maybe even 3, depending on, what Cole Turner is able to do or what Percy Butler is able to do. But we feel really good about, Jahan Dotson and what he's going to be able to come in and do right away. And also, I think a lot of you feel really good, I know I do, about Brian Robinson and what he's going to bring to the table. So we'll see what happens. But the talent level makes me a lot more confident in this football team's ability to get it done. And so obviously nothing to me resonates more as to why I feel like this team is at a 7 right now in terms of my level of optimism going into training camp than the quarterback position. Again, I can't state this enough. I don't know what Carson Wentz is going to do, which is why it's only at a 7. If I knew Carson Wentz was going to come in here and be the Carson Wentz of 2017, 18, or 19 when he was with the Philadelphia Eagles, then this is automatically a 9, maybe even a 10. But because I'm not sure of what we're getting and how he's going to acclimate himself to this offense, which I do think this is a really good offense for his skill set, because we primarily are in the gun. Carson Wentz is a better gun quarterback than he is under center. And so I think he's really going to be allowed to flourish in this offense. However, I got to see it first. I got to see it first. But I know what he's capable of. And I feel confident that he's going to come in here and be an upgrade over anything we've had at the quarterback position since 2016 Kirk Cousins. So that's saying a lot without saying a lot. And so that gives me the hope that this thing could potentially be an 8 before we get to camp. But right now it's a 7. And the reason it's a 7 and not an 8 is because you call us whatever you want. Redskins, football team, we're now the Commanders. But there's a history here of us not taking advantage of opportunities, not living up to our expectations. Last year, we thought this defense, I knew we were going to take a step back defensively. How could we not? We were playing a murderer's row schedule of NFL elite level quarterbacks. How could we not take a step back? The year before, I say it all the time, but we were playing Nick Mullins. We were playing against, we were playing against Andy Dalton and Ben DiNucci. We got a piece of Jalen Hurts in the final game of the season. Like, these were the quarterbacks we were playing against. We had no choice but to be successful. Then you up your level of competition to the likes of, Justin Herbert and Josh Allen and Matt Ryan and Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady and Russell Wilson. What the hell did you think was going to happen? Dak Prescott was here for 2 games instead of Ben DiNucci and Andy Dalton. Like, what did you think was going to happen? They were going to take a step back. But we didn't expect them to fall off of the proverbial NFL defensive cliff and be terrible. But they were. For the first 8, 9 weeks of the season, they were terrible. So we've seen this team not live up to expectations. We signed a guy last year in Curtis Samuel that absolutely gave us nothing. And it wasn't his fault. He was injured. There's nothing he can do about that. But that's the shit that happens when guys come to Washington. All of a sudden, they forget how to play football or they can't stay healthy. The shit that hasn't plagued them before starts to plague them now. So I want to be optimistic. I want to push it to an 8. But in the back of my mind, my tortured soul is saying, bro, you know better. You know how this shit can go. You get excited, and all of a sudden Jacksonville comes in here week 1, pulls your pants down and points and laughs. And you talking about, man, it was cold outside. Well, Jacksonville's like, we're from Florida. It's warm weather. We're here to kick ass, take names, and get out of here with a dub. That's the kind of shit that we do, is let Jacksonville come in here and beat us week 1. Or go to Detroit, have a letdown. After spanking Jacksonville week 1, we go to Detroit week 2 and have a letdown. That's the type of shit that we do. I remember very vaguely, or very clearly rather, in 2018 when we got Alex Smith, we go on the road week 1 against Arizona. beat the brakes off the Cardinals in impressive fashion. We had Adrian Peterson here. Adrian Peterson. We had Alex Smith, these veterans. They go over there, they kick some ass. We win that game decisively, dominate defensively. And we're coming home week 2 versus Indianapolis Colts team that's very vulnerable. We get a half-empty FedEx Field with probably just as many Colts fans as there were Washington fans in the stands, which was a surprise after what we did on the road the week prior. And we come home and we lay a fat, nasty dud of an egg. And we lose to Indianapolis. And that's the type of shit that we do here in Washington. We don't build off of momentum, usually. Generally, what we do is we get excited about one win. It goes to our head. And then the next week, we have a massive letdown against a team we have no business losing to. Now, I can say against Ron Rivera, or I can say, honestly, since Ron Rivera's gotten here, that hasn't really been the case. We've strung together win streaks. We did it in his first year. Remember, we started the season off 1-5. By the time we looked up, we were 2-7, but then we ran off 4 straight and got to 6-7 and gave ourselves a chance to win the division, and we ultimately did at 7-9. Last year, we got off to a 2-2 start. Then we lost 4 in a row. Then we won 4 in a row, and we were 6-6. And we had 5 straight division games to wrap up the season, and we fell flat on our face with injuries and COVID. And look, who knows? Maybe we were going to get our asses handed to us anyway, despite COVID and injuries. Would have loved to have seen what would have happened, but we didn't get that chance. And so all we were able to do was beat the Giants once, got swept by the Cowboys and the Eagles, and finished up the season at 7-10. But we had a 4-game winner. We had a 4-game heater the year before, so we know we're capable of getting victories. Now, we got to see if we can have success, sustain success, and have that carry over against teams that are actually worth a damn. It's okay and cool to beat up on Cincinnati with, Ryan Finley at quarterback for the second half of that game. It's cool to beat up on, as I mentioned already, Nick Mullins led San Francisco 49ers team. It's cool to get the Ben Roethlisberger undefeated led Pittsburgh Steelers. And look, they were playing well, but the demise of that team was right around the corner, and we kind of started it, okay? They weren't a good team after we beat them, and they were ousted in the first round of the playoffs after being the last undefeated team in the NFL that year. So they weren't a very good football team, especially on the offensive side of the football. So what we did to them, honestly, wasn't all that impressive when you look back at it, but it felt good in the moment because they were undefeated. And then, of course, what we did to Dallas on Thanksgiving. But they were led, again, by Andy Dalton. Like, who's afraid of Andy Dalton? So while we did that 4-game win streak in 2020, 4-game win streak, and that one was more impressive than the one we did in 2020 because we beat Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the defending Super Bowl champions. Got a little bit of get back against them in that game. We beat Cam Newton on the road, and people keep forgetting this. They were playing well. They had just come off of a 34-6 spanking and shellacking of the Arizona Cardinals, who were the best teams in football at the time. And it was Cam Newton's first game at home, and that crowd was juiced up. Felt like a playoff game. I've talked to people who were in attendance at the game. They said it felt like a playoff environment. We went in there and we won. Beat the Vegas Raiders in Vegas, beat Russell Wilson, who wasn't quite himself yet, was just coming back from an injury. But we beat them on a Monday night, and we won 4 in a row. That was impressive. So we're capable, but we didn't sustain it. We didn't sustain it in 2020. Remember, we're riding a 4-game heater. We have a chance to beat Seattle at home. We end up losing that game something like 20-15. Had every opportunity to win that game. Couldn't get it done. The following week, okay, so you lose to Seattle, right? Well, let's get our mojo back. You got a chance to clinch a playoff berth by beating Carolina. You beat the Panthers, you win the division. You don't even have to go to week 17 versus Philadelphia and need that game. Here's an opportunity. This is a 5-win Carolina Panthers team, 4 or 5-win team. Beat their ass at home. We let them come in, dominate us, and beat us in that game. That's the shit I'm talking about right there. That's what in the back of my mind I'm saying, bro, slow your roll. You'll pump your brakes and drive slow, homie. Drive slow, homie. That's the shit that has me somewhat worried. We saw it last year as well. Had a golden opportunity to beat the Chargers in week 1. Let it slip through our fingers. Golden opportunity to beat the Saints in week 5. Let it slip through our hands. Hell, we had a great opportunity to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. We were up 13-10 at halftime of that football game. Justin Hopkins missed a field goal in that football game that would have kept us within striking distance. We found ways to throw away opportunities to win games or beat teams that we had opportunities to beat last season. Went to Green Bay, had every opportunity of beating the Packers, got to the red zone 5 times, came away with 0 points. In a game that I think we ultimately lost, 24-10, something like that? Are you kidding me? If we kicked 5 field goals, we win that game 25-24. Now, not saying that that's how the game would have ended. Like, they would have been maybe more aggressive had we scored more points and been threatening. They were never threatened in that game. But we had opportunities. We moved the football up and down the field against them. Just couldn't find the end zone. We lost to the Denver Broncos. Are you serious? We lost to the Denver effing Broncos last year. They stunk, especially on offense. I think they beat us 17-10. Like, what? That's why I struggle with going any higher than a 7. Because while the schedule, and that's another reason why I'm so high. Why 7 is high, remember that. 7's high. Why I feel a 7 is appropriate is because the schedule is so appealing. Yeah, we got a late bye week, but other than that, what are you complaining about? Not a damn thing. You don't play 2 consecutive road games until weeks 10 and 11. It's the only stretch of the season where you play 3 out of 4 on the road and 2 straight in that stretch. And then we finish up the season, which is our only stretch of 2 straight home games, with 2 home games. Week 17 against Cleveland, week 18 against Dallas. And that's the only stretch where we finish up, and that's the only stretch of 3 out of 4 home games, 2 in a row. It's home, away, the entire season. And then I think it's week 6 against Chicago, if I'm not mistaken. You had a Thursday night game. So that's your mini little bye week right there to recharge the battery until you get to your week 13 or 14 bye. Like, the season is split into quarters for us perfectly. The season is split into thirds. You get a little mini bye after week 6. You get your full bye after like week 13, 14. And then you got the end of the season. Like, you can't ask for it any better. And not to mention, you play the AFC South and the NFC North, 2 of the more doable divisions. You could argue the AFC South is the worst division in football. With Jacksonville and Houston, I don't know what Tennessee or Indianapolis is going to be. You assume that those 2 teams are going to be quality opponents, but you got to find a way to beat both Jacksonville and Houston. You look at the NFC North, you say, all right, you got to find a way to beat, at bare minimum, you got to beat Detroit and Chicago. Got to find a way to win those 2 games. And then you need to find a way. We got Minnesota at home. We're not at Minnesota. We're at home against Minnesota. You got to find a way to beat Kirk Cousins' ass as he brings his ass back to Washington. You lose the game, okay, fine, you lose to Aaron Rodgers. And we've beaten Aaron Rodgers. We're actually really good at home against Aaron Rodgers. Sans for the playoff game. We've beaten Aaron Rodgers. The 2 regular season matchups for Aaron Rodgers at FedEx, we've won both of them. He's only beaten us in FedEx once, and that was in the playoffs when it counted. Now, at Lambeau, totally different story. He's undefeated against us. So that's not even a guarantee and a given that we're going to lose to the Packers. So I said all of that to say this. The schedule is favorable. The talent is here. The maturity level has heightened. The expectations are low. Adam Rank says we're going to be 3-14. Everyone that is prognosticating this division has either Philly or Dallas winning the division. We're an afterthought. That's usually when we do our best work. That has to change at some point. It has to change at some point. You've got guys more comfortable, and you, for the first time in a long time, you actually have a credible NFL starting quarterback. Now, You talk to some people, you look at these lists around the league, and Wentz is 29th in the league in the list of starting quarterbacks. I mean, you got to give me a break. Okay. At the end of the day, I love it. If you got him 27th on your list of quarterbacks in terms of starters, great. All the better when we end up kicking ass, taking names, and are one of the best teams in the NFC. I'd love to see where those lists are then. Everything's set up for success, and we just got to go out and do it. We got to stay healthy. That's something we haven't done. That's another reason why in the back of my mind, like, got to keep it at a 7. Don't push it to an 8. But we'll see. I feel good about where we are. Feel good about the upcoming season. I'm extremely optimistic, which is I'm usually reserved. I always tell you guys, sip slow. I spiked the punch to the point where it was no more punch, just straight alcohol. I still told you guys sip slow, but I was handing out cups. You get a cup, you get a cup, you get a cup. Cheers, right? Now, I was over here taking little sips. Some of y'all were shoveling it down your gullets and asking for more. And I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. Those are the people that are talking 12, 13 wins. They're drunk. I might have a little buzz going, but I'm good over here. I'm still talking with sense. So we'll see what happens. But for the first time in a while, I feel good about the season upcoming. And I think the reason all that stuff I said is great. The schedule, the talent level, the maturity level, all that stuff, that's fine and dandy. But the quarterback position is what has me the most hopeful, because in this league, if you don't have a quarterback, you don't have a chance. And for the first time since 2016, as I mentioned, we got a quarterback, man, with real weapons around him for him to get the football to, for him to facilitate. And we got an offensive line that can protect him, to allow him to do work. This season has a chance to be special, but they can't talk about it. They got to go out and do it. And I think because they talked so much last year and fell flat on their face, I don't think you're going to hear a lot of talking this year. I think you're going to get a lot of players that are about that action, boss. We were about a lot of gum flapping. I think this year we're going to be about that action. So 7 is the number for me. I want to know where you guys stand. Where's that number for you? I'm pushing towards 8, but I think I'm going to settle on 7 and remain here just because in the back of my mind, I've seen it all with this organization. And I get it. It's a brand new outfit in terms of uniform and name and, culture, this, that, and the third. But I got this, eerie feeling in the back of my brain that says, bro, it's still the same old Washington Redskins / football team, now Commanders. It's still the same old good guys. Shit always happens bad to us. So I'm going to keep it at a 7 for now. But yeah, I know what it is, man. If we start winning some games and we start doing it convincingly, and look, last year I was talking cold hard cash and we were beating teams 17-15. Okay, the last 2 games of our win streak, we're both 17-15 victories. And I was still talking cold hard cash. So it doesn't have to be convincing, although I would prefer it to be. I would prefer it to be. But if we beat Jacksonville 23-17 in week 1, and then we turned around and beat Detroit, 23-20, and then we beat Philadelphia 24-23, I don't give a shit. We're 3-0. None of them were convincing, but we won all 3 of them. Good teams know how to win the close ball games. So I'll take it any way I can get it. But at the end of the day, if we start winning some football games, you're going to hear my damn mouth. And I'm going to be loud. I'm going to be aggressive. And I'm going to be annoying to some of you. Okay? But I understand. And I can tell. Just like in 2017, we were winning games. You remember how we started that season off. But you could see that it was fool's gold and it was a house of cards. You could see that because when we played good teams, we couldn't stop a nosebleed. We were barely scoring as is, right? Against even the bad teams. Remember, Tampa Bay racked up 500 and 40 yards of total offense, but only scored like 3 or 6 points because they turned it over like 4 times and missed like 3 field goals. And we won that game something like 16-3. You could see the writing on the wall there. Like that was Drew Brees' pouring night, on that Monday night where he broke the record for the most, passing touchdowns in NFL history. We were awful that night. And that was a microcosm of the season. Like you could tell, the Falcons weren't even good that year. Julio Jones had 1 receiving touchdown the entire season. He comes into that game. I think he ends up getting 2 against us. And they hadn't scored 30 plus all season long. I think they scored like 38. Drubbed us at the crib. Beat the brakes off of us. Comfortably, I might add. It was not close. You could see any team with any offensive prowess was going to do us that year. I'm not going to be talking cold hard cash if the defense is still giving it up at a 57% clip on third downs, yet we're finding ways to win. That's not some shit you get excited about. You know that the bottom's going to fall out of that puppy at any moment. I want to see good, clean, wholesome, complementary football. Defense getting off the field, getting stops on third downs, creating short fields for the offense. Offense taking advantage of short fields, or, defense forces a field goal after giving up a lengthy drive. You start at your own, 25-yard line, and then you put together a drive, whether that ends in a field goal or it ends in a touchdown, or you flip field position, you got a punt, and you pin them at their own 6. Now the defense, do your job. Get off the field, get us great field position, and now offense, you do your job. Special teams, when you're called upon, you do your job. That's what I'm looking for. That's what I'm looking for. Complementary football. I see that, and it's resulting in dubs. I see a mistake-free football team that doesn't beat itself, doesn't make stupid mistakes with penalties and turnovers, and missed assignments. Like last year, we were giving up all kinds of deep balls. Lack of communication. That's the favorite excuse of every defensive coordinator when shit doesn't work here in Washington. Oh, lack of communication. One play here, one play there. Bullshit. You've been saying that for the last month and a half. Bullshit. So I don't want to hear that this year. I don't want to hear about lack of communication. That's not supposed to happen this year. Bobby McCain's been here. Yeah, Percy Butler's new. I don't care. I'm not looking for any excuses this year. I'm not trying to hear any excuses this year. Figure it out. Figure it out. So, really looking forward to this season. I got us at a 7. My optimism level is at a 7 right now because I think we have a chance to do something special, but they got to go out and they got to do it. Let's talk more action. And we got a quarterback. That's why this thing has a chance to really, bubble and explode. It's because we got a dude. We got a guy. Former number 1 overall pick, former number 2 overall pick in the 2016 NFL draft. We got a dude. Okay. We got a guy. This one ain't 6 feet, 195 pounds. Okay. This one isn't 6'1", 207 pounds. This one isn't 6'3", or 6'2", 220 with a rifle arm, but slow as molasses and just doesn't get it and has no ability to put touch on the football. We got a big hulking 6'5", 235-pound, athletically gifted, big, strong armed, NFL caliber quarterback. We got a guy. We got a dude. I'm excited to see what he looks like. So, anyway, let's see what you guys have to say. Appreciate you guys joining me tonight. NBA draft is on. You could be anywhere else. NHL, hockey. I don't know if there's a game on tonight. I think there was a game on yesterday. So I don't know if there's a game on tonight, but baseball's on. We're in the dead heat of the baseball season now. And it's really the only ticket in town now. So, You could be anywhere but here, but you're here chopping it up with me, your man Louie T, and I appreciate you for that. So with that said, let's get to business tonight. And we will start the show off with a super chat from Warren Jackson. Thank you for the super chat, Warren. Greatly appreciate you. Damn Skippy, too, who writes, I want to thank you, Lou, for all the Washington football team content and keep on singing. He's a fly guy. Look, I get a lot of flack from me singing. You know, I'm not going to stop singing. I had somebody tell me, what is it going to take? I really think it was my guy, Door Gunner. What is it going to take for me to get you to stop singing? I'm like, bro, you can't stop me from singing. I'm a happy-go-lucky guy. You can't stop me from singing, man. Ain't no amount of money out there that can stop me from singing, man. Because you trying to steal my joy. I can't let you steal my joy, man. Okay? No matter how hard you try, you can't stop me now. I'm not going to stop singing. He's a fly guy. Do-do. Sly guy. He's a sly guy. Y'all know what it is. Hopefully, he keeps doing what he did last year. Did not miss a single kick down the stretch of the season for us. Need him to keep that going here in Washington. Thank you for the super chat, Warren Jackson, and thank you for the continued support. HTTR for life. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, 8, Lou. 8 is my answer for now. That's to me the magic number. I don't think you should be any higher than 8. I can't tell you how to feel. So if you've got a 9 or a 10, bless your heart. That means when I was serving up drinks earlier this season, when the schedule came out, you were shoveling them down your throat and were begging for more. And you left pretty much pissy drunk. And you haven't gotten over that hangover yet. I think 8 is the magic number, honestly. I'm going to be a little bit more reserved because of what this organization has done to me in the past and me knowing better and knowing how this team operates. I'm going to stick with my 7, but that 8 is very appealing. And I told you I'm trending towards 8, but I'm going to stick with 7 for now. But HTTR for life, 8, that's a really good number. 8 is great, if you know what I mean. Thank you for the super chat. HTTR for life. Metaphor, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Metaphor, thank you for being a member of the MOBB, writes, calling Jahan Solo offensive rookie of the year of first ever Commander Khan. When's the last time? I guess 2012, right? Would be Robert Griffin III would be the last time we had an offensive rookie of the year. We don't do those types of things often here. Now, we did have a defensive rookie of the year, 2020, and Chase Young. But rarely do we have offensive or defensive rookies of the year. We generally don't do that here. So it'd be nice to have a guy burst onto the scene and play at a level. And I'm really hoping that a guy like Jahan Dotson or even Curtis Samuel, I really don't give a shit who it is, but I prefer it to be Jahan Dotson personally because I feel like we can count on him and rely on him a little bit more than Curtis Samuel. But that said, I'd rather it be Jahan Dotson, but I don't care who it is, opposite of Terry, that explodes because the sooner one of those guys, ascends, the faster that Terry starts to see regular coverage and he can start to eat over there on his side of the field with relative ease. Until somebody shows them that they shouldn't be bracketing Terry or they shouldn't be doubling Terry, they're going to continue to treat Terry like the number one wide receiver that he is. And they're going to try and take him away. And their focal point defensively is going to be, hey, stop 17, make somebody else beat us. And until 1 or 10 or one of these other guys steps up, 2, anybody starts to make plays on a consistent basis. And really, you're going to need to see maybe 1 or 2 guys get over the top. Remember, that's what earned Terry his respect right out of the gate. Week 1 against Philadelphia, smoked them for a touchdown, 75 yards, and then had another one wide ass open, probably 5-6 yards behind the Eagles defense. And Case Keenum overthrew him by about 3-4 yards. That would have been another probably 55, 60-yard touchdown. So right then and there, Terry put the league on notice. Like, I can run. I ran a 4.37. I can fly. You might want to cover me. And from that point on, he never looked back. So I would love it if Jahan Dotson or Curtis Samuel had a big play in week 1 to put the rest of the league on notice. Like, hey, Terry's got help now. Might want to watch his step. It'd be great to see a guy like Jahan Dotson step up and be, even if he's in and he doesn't win, but he's in the conversation, because this is the type of year where a non-quarterback could win it, because we don't have any quarterbacks that really move the needle. So this is a year where a non-quarterback could win it. Now, I'm not sure, but I believe Jamar Chase won it last year. So you could see it being the case where a quarterback doesn't win it. But the year prior, it was either Herbert. I think it was Herbert who won offensive, because it was going to be Joe Burrow, and Burrow got hurt and Herbert won it. This isn't a draft class with quarterbacks that you think are going to, get a year. So there will be an opportunity for, one of these running backs, whether it be Breece Hall or the other kid that Kenneth Walker III, or, it's, receiver or someone like that. There's a chance for someone like Jahan Dotson. And there were like 5 receivers taken in the first round. There's a chance one of these guys could explode and be your offensive rookie of the year, because the quarterback crop isn't all that great from this past year's draft class. So we'll see what happens. Anyway, thank you for the super chat. Metaphor. Warren Jackson, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Warren Jackson, greatly appreciate you. Who writes 6 with the distractions, 8 if they go away. So I don't think the distractions that we're seeing right now are going to really impact the players. One thing I've learned about the players, the real distractions come from within the locker room. So when you get a distraction, like the Daniel Snyder shit doesn't impact the players. They could care less about that stuff. Only time they even hear about that stuff a lot of times and even, discuss it is when the media brings it up. And this shit has been happening for so long, and the media doesn't even bring that stuff up anymore. The stuff that's a distraction that could be problematic is like Jack Del Rio, that kind of situation. That's some shit in the locker room. That's the shit that the players talk about amongst themselves. And then the media is going to bring that to their doorstep. That's a distraction that you don't need, that could result in this team having some issues and some struggles. But I don't think we're going to see that be an issue, because Ron rather nipped it in the bud, as he should have did it a lot sooner, but he did it, which is, I got to commend him for that. He did it. So I don't think the distractions that we're seeing now, these hearings or any of that stuff, that's not affecting the players. They don't talk about that shit. As long as they're getting their paycheck, they can give a shit about that stuff. So I think we're going to be fine. Just got to stay relatively healthy, man. And, the Jack Del Rio stuff is done. Well, I don't think we're going to have any more discussions about that. So I think we're going to be fine in that regard. But you never know. This team never ceases to amaze in ways they find to keep themselves in the news, and not for positive reasons. So we'll see. I'll just say this. You're probably at a 7. You talk about distractions, it's a 6 with distractions, an 8 if they go away. So that means right now you're probably in the middle somewhere at a 7. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, Warren Jackson. Chilled Dude, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, Chilled Dude, writes, lay down that brick, win foundation. It's strong. Boy, is it ever. Boy, is it ever. If you lay down enough of those bricks and that foundation, and they're winning bricks, it'll hold your organization up for years to come. It really starts with that quarterback. But I mean, look at the Chiefs, look at the Packers, look at some of these teams that win and win big every year. Now, granted, you're talking about 2 of the greatest quarterbacks in NFL history, in Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes. And Mahomes still has a lot of football ahead of him and a lot more time to rewrite the history books. But just in the short period of time that he's been in the league, This man has already done things we've never seen quarterbacks do in this league. So he's already one of the best quarterbacks in NFL history, and he's still got another 10, 12 years of football left in him. That said, that's not what we have in Washington right now. Even with Wentz, that's not what we have. But we have a quarterback that will give us a chance. That's all you can ask for. A guy that belongs here, as a starter, has the physical gifts and tools necessary to get the job done, and can outduel, if necessary, a Mahomes, a Dak Prescott, an Aaron Rodgers, and guys like that. So you feel good about that. And if you can, again, and this is why it's so important to win, and I talk about this all the time, it's just this vicious, flavor delicious cycle that repeats itself. You win, you gain confidence, you continue to win, and it just repeats itself over and over and over again. And my example has always been and will continue to be the 2015 Carolina Panthers. That team wasn't a juggernaut talent-wise. They were average as hell at best. But they had a MVP caliber quarterback who ultimately won the MVP that year in Cam Newton, who was playing out of his gourd. But they started winning football games. At one point you look up, you're 6-0, and you're like, shit, we're really good. Next thing you know, you look up, you're 10-0, and nobody can touch you, and you expect to win. You show up each week expecting to find a way to get it done. And that's what they did. En route to 15-1 season, regular season, and then, getting all the way to the Super Bowl and not getting it done. But they kept winning. It built confidence. That confidence morphed into them expecting to win, and they did. And you see it happen with teams all the time. So lay that winning brick foundation down, man. Lay that thing down. It's strong. It's rock solid if you can get it. I'm with you. Chill dude. Thank you for the super chat. Eric, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy Eric writes, 4 years from now, is Dotson greater or equal to Terry? Based on what I've seen and heard, the kid has some serious potential. Well, we got to see it on the field. That's the thing about what we're talking about. Right now, we're still talking about talk, what we've heard, lips flapping, gums moving, right? We haven't seen it with our own two eyes. Now, I watched the kid in college for 3 out of his 4 years. I was pretty much seeing a ton of Jahan Dotson. Played at Penn State. It's impossible in Virginia not to see Penn State. If they play, 12 games, if they play 12 games, it's impossible not to see 10 of them here in Virginia. Between ESPN and ABC and throw in some Big Ten network, you're going to see Penn State football around these parts. So I feel confident in what Jahan Dotson can be. But this isn't college. He's got to do it at the NFL level, and we need to see it. Terry's been a model of consistency since day one. Right out of the packaging, man almost had 1,000 yards. And again, I always contend if he doesn't miss the final 2 games of the season with that concussion that he sustained in his rookie season, he's a 1,000-yard receiver all 3 years to start his career off. So let's see if Jahan has that kind of success right out of the gate where he's a 900-yard plus receiver and then just takes off from there. See if that's what he's about. Can he be better than Terry? Sure. Why not? He's a more polished receiver coming out of college. Remember, Terry was still viewed as a special teams guy by many, including myself, when we drafted him in 2019 out of the Ohio State University. We say, oh, he's a deep threat, and he blocks really well in the run game. He'll get after you, and he's a core special teamer. We didn't talk about his wide receiver prowess then. We're talking about Jahan Dotson as a first-round pick. Terry was a third-round pick. Keep that in mind. Jahan Dotson is a first-round pick and a polished wide receiver that's ready to come in and contribute right away. Of course, he can be better than Terry, but the assumption is, 4 years from now, Terry will be getting up there in age. Terry will be north of 30. Jahan, we should be able to assume, health willing, that he'll be going into the prime of his career. He probably should be better than Terry at that point of his career. We'll see, though. You never know. And it's not like Terry's going to be 35. Terry will probably be somewhere in that 30, 31 range 4 years from now. So We'll see. Maybe Terry won't be ready to relinquish that title of best receiver on the Commanders roster yet by the time 4 years rolls around. We'll see. J. Kirk 20. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. J. Kirk 20 writes, I don't know about Jamin Davis. Reporters like JP and Pete Haley saying he's running with the second team is not a good look for the defense. And Ron, we need depth there fast because if Cole gets hurt, it's over. So the whole running, and I haven't heard this, but even if he is running with the second team, it doesn't bother me this time of the year because they want to get looks at certain guys. They want to see what happens when we put this guy in this position, give him some reps, against the ones, this, that, and the third, and how he responds. So you see them do that from time to time. They do these things. They did it in camp last year, especially with the offensive line. They were mixing and matching parts all over the place because they knew injuries happen on the offensive line. You need to get accustomed to playing alongside this guy and that guy, and we may have to shuffle this around, and you may have to play, this position versus that position. So you see them do these things just to get guys prepared, whether it be the guy, himself, the player that you're giving the opportunity to, or the guys around that player that they need to be prepared in the event that something happens, somebody else has to step in. They're not, discombobulated. So I don't put too much stock into that. We'll see, if Jamin Davis is running with the twos when we get to training camp and you got the number one defense out on the field and Jamin Davis is nowhere to be found and there's nothing physically wrong with him. Okay, then we can have that conversation. In the OTAs and in minicamp, I'm not really going to put too much stock into that because they're mixing and matching parts all over the place. The portion of practice that they might have seen, they might have had him running with the twos at that point. So I don't know. I'm not going to put too much stock into it. We'll see. But again, linebacker depth probably is the single biggest issue with this team if you feel confident about the defensive line depth. For me, I think the D-line depth, defensive tackle in particular, or lack thereof, is probably a little bit more disconcerting than linebacker depth because, again, we don't play a lot of linebackers, but I think that's me trying to convince myself that I'm not worried about the linebacker depth when I really am. Because, again, you're one injury away from, oh, my God, what the hell are we going to do? So we'll see what happens. Thank you for the super chat, J. Kurt 20. B-Ball God, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, my guy, B-Ball God, right? What's up, Lou? What's up, B-Ball God? Hear me out. Is Dotson a close comparison to OBJ? Both 5'11", 4'4", guys with great hands and route running. He could be. I don't think he is as explosive as Odell Beckham Jr. I felt like he was a little bit more dynamic with the ball in his hands than Jahan Dotson. However, there are some similarities. I think both of their hands are ridiculous. I think, as you mentioned, both of their route running abilities off the charts. And their statures are very similar. Their speed, straight line speed. I think the difference between the two is the quick twitch fibers, the quickness, the start and stop, the suddenness. I think that advantage and edge goes to Odell Beckham Jr. And because of that, I think that's the separator there. But I think there are a lot of similarities to their game. And he could turn into one of those types of players. And remember, Odell Beckham Jr. missed the first 3 games, if I'm not mistaken, of his rookie season with the Giants. And then all he did in 13 games was amass, I think, 1,400 yards receiving or close to it. He was ridiculous in his rookie season. So I don't see that for Jahan Dotson, but I could see him having an immediate impact on this roster. So we'll see what happens. But that's not a bad comparison. Really not. HTTR for life. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, HTTR for life, writes, I want Terry signed by the 11th because my jersey gets here on the 11th. But he says, seriously, though, you know how worried I am about that deal, Lou. You got nothing to worry about. I keep telling you this. I know you don't want to hear it, but you got nothing to worry about. You know, if Ron was a little bit more vague with his answers regarding Terry and the contract situation and, you know, talking about Terry as a player, if he was a little bit more vague, I would have been worried. But Ron has been pretty outspoken about guys like Terry and Jonathan Allen and even Brandon Sheriff to a lesser degree. But they tried to keep Brandon Sheriff here long term, and he didn't want to. Once he got a taste of the franchise tag and the possibility of getting a free agency, he wasn't interested in signing a long-term deal here. And I don't blame him. You know, he maximized this situation once they gave him the opportunity to get to free agency. He was going to take it and force them to, you know, slap the franchise tag on him, make $33 million in 2 years, and then turn around and eat again at the table with, you know, a bunch of guaranteed money and a long-term deal with the Jaguars. So you don't want to let the situation get to that point, but they wanted to resolve that Brandon Sheriff situation. So Ron has been very vocal about guys like those who are captains within the locker room, who do it the right way, who they want to build around. And you got to take care of guys like that in the locker room in order to keep the peace and sanctity of that locker room. You know, it's hard to convince guys that we're going to pay you, we're going to reward you for doing it the right way, when a guy that was a model citizen and did everything that was asked of him and then went above and beyond the call of duty to get the job done, whether it was, you know, physically, mentally, whether it was vocally or by, you know, by example. Terry's been the exemplary, you know, player for this organization. And so Ron's like, ain't no way, you know, ain't no way. We want him here. He's going to be here. We're not trading him. Terry's going to get the deal. So I don't think it'll be before the 11th though. So you're going to have to sweat it out a bit, but it'll be before camp. That's how I feel. B-Ball God, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up, B-Ball God, who writes. Also, in my opinion, I feel like Kyle Fuller got exposed last year. You know, I thought early in the season he struggled. I thought as the season wore on, he got better. He got more comfortable, and I thought he started to play with confidence. So I want to see what Kendall Fuller we get right out of the gate. Because I think when he's playing at a high level, when he's confident, he's really good, man. He's really, really good. So I don't know if he got exposed last year. There were times where he did struggle, but hell, there were times where, you know, William Jackson III struggled and our secondary in general struggled. He wasn't alone. But I thought, just like William Jackson III, towards the end of the season, he started to pick it up. He started to become more comfortable. He started to make more plays. And I think he's a guy that I'm looking, you know, forward to seeing really establish himself as one of the core leaders of that defense. Been here, you know, longer than just about anybody on the defense. He first got here when Rivera got here. And so this is year three of Jack Del Rio's system for a veteran player like Fuller. No excuses. Malachi Malik, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Malachi Malik, thank you for being a member of the MOBB Rights. Lou, what's up, my guy? What's up, Malachi? Says, listen, man, I heard we were dragging our feet on paying Terry because Dotson is performing so well. I don't know where you get that from. Says, please tell me we're not that stupid. Please. MOBB squad, mob squad, stand up. We in the building. Y'all know what it is. No, I haven't heard anything. I've heard rumors, but nothing concrete. Nothing from people that I trust. None of that has been, you know, something that I put a lot of stock into. They're not going to not pay Terry because they're so blown away by Jahan Dotson without pads on that they're going to not pay a guy that has been everything to this organization since he's gotten here. It's no way. I know you guys heard that the talks intensified as we got toward the latter portion of that mini camp. Ron said, that they were trying to get the deal done prior to the last day of minicamp so they could get Terry to show up. They thought it would be important for him to show up for that last day of minicamp, be unified as one, and really go into training camp with the momentum of Terry's deal being signed and not having to discuss that nor worry about that and have that be behind them. They weren't able to get that done. And what I said this on my podcast, but for those of you who didn't watch, and for those of you who did, I apologize that you're having to sit through this again. But for those of you who did not watch, I essentially said that what them intensifying talks with Terry and them not getting a deal says to me is that they were really far apart. And that's normal during negotiations. I told you that I thought that they would be significantly apart and there would be some serious separation and distance between what Terry Camp thinks that Terry, deserves and what Washington is willing to pay at this current juncture. I think, Washington was closer to that Amari Cooper contract that they offered Cooper when he was a free agent and chose Dallas over Washington, which was somewhere in that, $20 to $21 million range. I think the reports came out that it was a 5-year, $105 million deal or something to that effect, maybe 110, something like that. They offered Amari Cooper and he turned it down. He preferred to go to Dallas, and I don't blame him. There's no, there's no tax there. You get all of your money essentially. They had a better quarterback, and it was closer to home for him. He's a down south kid, and that was a chance to be closer to home. So he chose Dallas. I think Washington was somewhere around there with their, starting point. And not necessarily the years or the amount, because Terry might be looking for a 3-year extension, that pays him $75.5 million. Terry could be looking for a 4-year extension, similar to the one A.J. Brown got. And instead of it paying him, 4 years, $25 million per at, $100 million in aggregate, it'll be something like 101, 4 years, 101. And then the guarantees would be, somewhere in that 58, 59 million, or excuse me, I think the guarantees in a deal like that would probably be somewhere in the 52, $53 million range, maybe 47, something like that. A little over, a little under half of the deal. But I don't think this is a situation where they're not going to re-sign him, or they're thinking about not re-signing him because of what Jahan Dotson has done. At the end of the day, I think that they are a lot closer now than they were before the, acceleration of things and the intensified talks. I think Washington might have gotten up to that, 4 years, 110, 115 range. But for his camp, that, they're looking at, not 4 years, 5 years. Washington might have got to that 5 years, 120, 115, 120 range, 110, 115 range. I think that's where they are. And that's not going to get it done yet. They need to get up to that 5 years, 125 range. And I don't think it's going to be a 5-year deal. I think it's going to be a 4-year deal extension. So if it is that, then I think Washington was somewhere in that 85, 90 range, and they need to get to like 101. And they just weren't there yet. And as we get closer to that deadline, they'll get closer and closer to that number that's going to get the deal done. So we're not that stupid. Trust me, Malachi, we're not that stupid. Nothing to worry about. Let's see. 1-6 Devil Doc. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, 1-6 Devil Doc. Thank you for being a super a member of the MOBB. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, Lou, been hearing that J-Dot is schooling our veteran DBs. He's picking them up and putting them down. Straight assassin. Jahan Wick. Shout out to KP. It's been OTAs and minicamp. It's like I can't allow myself to get too worked up or excited about OTAs and minicamp. First of all, one-on-one drills and OTAs and glorified 7-on-7s and 11-on-11s. So essentially what they're doing with no pads on, nobody's getting hit. The threat of getting hit doesn't really exist. With that said, I don't put but so much stock into it. It's designed for the offense to be successful. That's why when we have days where the offense is stagnant and turning it over and the defense is dominating, you're like, what the hell is going on? Now, when there's pads on, those things can happen. You get physical and, things happen. Dust-ups happen. You're able to get into it. And then the threat of getting hit, it does exist. You're not trying to hurt your teammate, but, the threat of being hit and violence does exist. That doesn't exist in OTAs and minicamp. So I'm glad to hear that he's out there doing dudes. That's what you want to hear. You get worried when he's not taking care of business, but I'm not going to put too much stock into it until we get to a point where we're watching it and we're seeing with our own eyes. I know what the dude's capable of, so I'm not surprised. I'm not shocked one bit, but you want to see it for yourself. You want to see him doing these dudes in the league and doing them dirty. And that's what we're hoping to see on a consistent basis. So, all right. Thank you for the super chat. 1-6 Devil Doc. Rob you. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, Rob you writes, Lou, Rob, how you been? So it's been a while since this team has had a legit offensive weapons. Again, Wentz has no excuse not to produce. He's got a couple of built-in excuses, but we're not trying to hear them. This is a new system for him. All of this is brand new. It's a complex new system. It's not like what he's dealt with before, where it was just a bunch of verbiage and there's a bunch of words. There's numbers in this offense, and so there's a lot to digest. And he's talked about this being a complicated offense, but he's growing every day in it. And he's talked about leaning on certain guys to continue to help him get a better understanding of the offense, and he's getting more and more comfortable as each day passes. And so we'll see. That's one of the excuses, but I mean, to your point, I think this is the most talented offense he's ever been on, from the offensive line to the skill positions to the weapons he'll get the football to. I think he's played with a better group of tight ends than what we are put on the field in Philadelphia. There was a much better group of tight ends. But outside of that, I like our running backs. I like our receivers. I even like the offensive line he's playing with here in Washington. So I think that the excuses, or the amount of excuses that will be at his disposal will be minimal. Minimal excuses. So there's a lot of legit offensive weapons for Wentz to get the football to. So we'll see how he utilizes them. Let's see. Mr. Ron B, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Mr. Ron B, one of our resident OG triple OGs, writes, rip to Brig Owens, former Redskins safety. He was a solid defensive and special teams player, always represented the team well. I have no idea who that is. I heard people talking about his passing. I know I saw our GM, Martin Mayhew, tweet out about Brig Owens passing and how he was not only a great player on the field, but he was a great ambassador off of it. One of the nicest men he's ever met and well respected around the league and specifically in this organization and in the community here in the DMV area. So sounds like he was every bit the player and an even better human being off of the gridiron. So again, did not know him, couldn't even pick him out of a photo lineup, but Brig Owens, may he rest in paradise. Heard a lot of good things said about him over the last 24 hours. So rest in paradise, Brig Owens. Thank you for the super chat, Mr. Ron B. Damn Twin Shorty Sublime. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, what up, Lou? What's good with you? Says, been a while since I chimed in, but still rocking with you. Always good to know. Always good to know. He says, do we sign a linebacker before training camp? No way we go into camp with Hudson, Mayo as our third and fourth LBs on the chart, right? We might. There's a possibility. I talked about, for Rod Gardner as another guy that they want to try out as a linebacker, playing that Buffalo nickel. But there's been a lot of rumors about Anthony Barr, that still seem to be circulating. I haven't heard anything from, my contacts or anybody that I trust. But that doesn't mean something isn't going to happen or isn't imminent. But I don't know. Ron said this, and I take him at face value. I told you, generally, when he says something, I take him at face value. He said he wants to add a veteran linebacker. So my guess is they're going to add someone. Will it be before camp? Maybe not. You have 90 roster spots for training camp at the very beginning. The goal is to use every single one of those 90 roster spots and not leave any of them empty. So if they've got one or two spots available, I assume they're going to fill those prior to training camp. The more bodies, the better. But I don't know if they're going to add a linebacker or not. That's going to be interesting to see. Duncan Wright, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, my guy Duncan writes. You guys trash Jalen, but gush on Dak, so enjoy. Dak had 10 INTs while Jalen had 9. Second, Jalen went just as far as Dak in the playoffs. Third, without Amari, Dak drops from 104 to 86 QB rating. Jalen has 87. Again, you're bringing up points that make absolutely zero sense. Dak Prescott has been doing this at a very high level. Now, you could talk, if you want to talk playoffs, the floor is yours. Dak hasn't had any success in the postseason. So if you want to go the postseason route, knock yourself out. You're not going to get any objections from me. I'll stand back and let you do what you do. But if we're talking regular season, Dak Prescott, Jalen Hurts can't hold a candle. Okay, Dak Prescott has been one of the more clutch and dominant regular season quarterbacks in his career. Guy has his rookie season, he won 13 games, I think. He's had multiple double-digit win seasons. He's put up big numbers. The year he got injured, he was on pace to shatter. He wasn't going to keep that pace. It was a ridiculous, torrid pace, and they were down big in a lot of those games, but he still was bringing them back. He was on pace to throw for almost 6,000 yards, the year he got injured in 2020. Dak Prescott's a fantastic quarterback. You don't have to love him. You know, you don't even have to like him, but you do need to respect him. We don't have to respect Jalen Hurts. He's done nothing other than it seems like he's a really good dude. And I said, if he played for any other team than Philadelphia, I'd be rooting like hell for him. But he plays for the Eagles, so it's easy to not like Jalen Hurts. We don't have to respect Jalen Hurts' game. You got to respect Dak Prescott's game. Okay? You don't have to respect Jalen Hurts' game. So we'll see. You know, if Jalen Hurts wants respect, he's going to have to go out here and go get it. Nobody giving him a damn thing because he ain't earned shit. Every time he plays against a formidable defense, he wets the bed. You know, he'll take advantage of the Atlanta Falcons like he did last year, the Detroit Lions like he did last year, the New York Jets like he did last year. You know, he'll take advantage of those teams. I want to see what happens when he plays teams like he did against Tampa, where he was awful, not once, but twice against the Buccaneers. He was awful both games, regular season and postseason. Now, he brought him back, brought him back in the regular season matchup, but he was awful for 3 quarters in that game before actually waking up in the fourth quarter. I want to see him play against the better defenses, the better teams. He stunk against Dallas twice, not once, twice. So until he starts elevating his level of play against the better defenses, teams that can get after him, he had one of his worst games against the Giants. He didn't get a great deal of help in that game. I get it. There were drops and things like that. He also threw one of the worst interceptions of the year at the end of the first half in that game against the Giants. There's no excuse for that. So you can make all the excuses you want for Jalen Hurts. Okay. That's fine. This is a show me league, and it's a Janet Jackson league. What have you done for me lately? Do, 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 do. Ooh, yeah. And as far as I'm concerned, Jalen Hurts hasn't done anything for me lately. Nothing. So it's not a comparison. Dak Prescott is a top 13 quarterback in this league. Jalen Hurts isn't even on the radar. So you say what you want about Dak Prescott. Again, want to talk about playoff Dak? Knock yourself out. Hasn't had any success in the playoffs. Okay? Not going to get any arguments or pushback from me. But if we're talking regular season, which is what you're talking about, pretty much, it's not a conversation to be had. Dak's up here. Jalen Hurts is way down here off the screen. Can't even see him. Put it down a little bit. Okay? All right. Thank you for the super chat, Duncan. Right. Let's see. Derek B. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Derek B. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Writes, Eagles 0-6 versus 2021 playoff teams, 1-7 versus teams with winning record. 1 versus Saints with Simeon at quarterback. Eagles weren't ish, ain't gonna be ish. Thank you. That's essentially what I just said. And I hadn't seen your super chat yet. But I just played off my head. This is what I talked about with Lloyd Brunson, with LB. Like, you guys took advantage of your schedule, which I'm not mad at it. I'm not mad at it at all. You can only play who they put in front of you. But let's not make it seem like you didn't play the Jets, like you didn't play the Lions, like you didn't beat up on the Atlanta Falcons before they got any good. Had they played that same Falcons team in week 12 or 14 instead of playing them week 1 when they had a brand new head coach and they were still figuring shit out, I don't know if they beat Atlanta. But they got Atlanta in week 1 when the Falcons' head was still spinning and they dominated them. So, again, I thought that the Eagles were average at best, but they figured some shit out. I got to give them credit, and I've given them credit. They figured some shit out. How often is it that coaches are stuck in their ways, especially young coaches, like, this is the way I want to do it, and this is how we're going to win because this is my system, and they don't want to change shit up, even though it's not working. Give credit to Sirianni for saying, nah, this shit ain't working. And switching it up and realizing that their bread and butter was the run game, leaning on that offensive line and their ability to run with their quarterback, who's a certified running back, and getting the most out of that offense using the ground game. Got to give him credit. But to my point, and Derek B's greater point, who the hell did you beat? When you played good teams, when you played Tampa Bay twice, you got embarrassed twice. And yeah, the first game, the score doesn't indicate what kind of an ass beating it was. It was 28-7 going into the fourth quarter. It's an ass whooping is what it was. Okay? Just like the playoff game was an ass whooping. I watched you get destroyed on a Monday night by the Dallas Cowboys. Destroyed. Thrown pick sixes, thrown, all kinds of bullshit. So, and like you said, the one team with a winning record, the Saints, like my guy Derek B said, that was with Trevor Siemian. That was with Trevor Siemian. You didn't beat the Chargers. It was a good game. Came down to the wire and a field goal at the end, but you didn't beat the Chargers. You didn't beat the Chiefs. Did you beat the Raiders? I remember that game in Vegas, but I'm not sure if you won or lost that game. I think you won that game. I don't know if the Raiders were over 500 when you beat them, but that's no here nor there. They finished with an over 500 record. Either way, you beat Denver. They weren't a good team, but that was a tough win on the road, and you got it done. Again, I'm not going to shit on you. You made the playoffs. We didn't. You won 9 games. We did not. Okay? But let's keep it a buck. Jalen Hurts was mediocre at best last year. Jalen Hurts is probably going to be mediocre at best this year. And until otherwise notified, until he proves me wrong, that's how I feel. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. See. Chill Dude. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Chill Dude. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Writes, oh yeah. Hit the like button. Drink the Kool-Aid. Love ya. Y'all heard the man. Hit the like button if you haven't already done so. Good to see that we're up over 100 likes. Keep hitting that like button if you haven't already hit it. Get that number. Let's run those numbers up to 200 if we can. Look, I already told y'all about the Kool-Aid. Sip it. Don't guzzle. Okay? Sip slow. That's what I'm doing. All right? It ain't nothing wrong with having a red Solo cup in your hand and babysitting that thing in the corner while you're having a good time and just vibing. You know what I'm saying? You're just in the corner. You're in a little two-step, little shoulder side to side. Got your little cup in your hand. You just chilling, feeling the scene. Ain't nothing wrong with that. Don't be the guy that's pissy drunk all over people, not respecting personal space, slurred speech, and if he falls asleep on the couch, he's not getting up until tomorrow. Don't be that guy. Don't be that guy. Okay? Sip slow. Slip slow. I'm not telling you not to drink. I'm just telling you to be cautious. Okay? Be responsible. Okay? I'm your friend, and friends know when to say when. Sip slow. Okay? Slip slow. Rob you. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you. Double up. For doubling up. Rob you, who writes, is Jahan hype real or is he just the newest toy? Hopefully a combination of both. Oh, the hype is real. He's legit, man. I firmly believe that. But again, I want to see it first. But I tried to explain on draft night when we got him that this guy's, one of the most polished receivers in this draft class. As a senior wide receiver, he's seen a lot of football, played a lot of football in a big time, program and in a big time conference. So it's not like he is coming from the MAC, or he's coming from the Sun Belt, or in the case of, when we got AGG, he's coming from Liberty. This man played at Penn State against the creme de la creme, against Michigan and Ohio State and Michigan State. Played against some good clubs, right? Iowa. and he got it done at a high level. So we know he's capable. We know that he's able to make some things happen. And we know the dude is talented. The hands are legit. The route running is legit. He's got good speed. He brings a lot to the table. Run after the catch, all of that good stuff. Things that we lacked, he brings to the table. So I'm excited. They're excited. He's building a rapport with Carson Wentz. So that's exciting. Now we just need to see it translate to Sundays, Mondays, Thursdays, and some Saturdays. That's it. Chill dude. Thank you for the super chat. Thank you. Really do appreciate you, chill dude, who writes, nice to have a legit starting quarterback with a good supporting cast on offense. Looking forward to some offense this year. Our quarterback play has been ass for years. Facts. And if we're keeping it just in the scope of the last 2 years, our biggest deficiency hasn't been special teams. And remember how bad special teams was at one point last year. We couldn't even make a field goal that was 25 yards because it was getting blocked, or we were kicking it into the line. It was bad. Dustin Hopkins had plenty of leg and lift. He just was inaccurate. And then we had a guy that couldn't kick the ball past the offensive line, and Chris blew it. So that shit was getting blocked every other kick. And then we finally got a guy. So it was terrible for a stretch there, field goal kicking wise. Special teams was terrible. But that wasn't the biggest problem. The defense was horrific early in the season. But you know what? There were also some games where the defense made plays, like the New Orleans game. Yeah, they gave up the Hail Mary before halftime. That's cringeworthy. Yeah, they gave up a drive that ate up a good chunk of the fourth quarter when we needed to stop to give us a chance to win, and they didn't get it done, and that put the game out of reach. They went up 2 scores, and the game was essentially over. Yeah, that happened too. But you know what they also did in that game? They also picked Jameis Winston off a couple of times. They also gave us an opportunity with some great field position and short fields to score. And did we take advantage of it? Hell no. We threw picks. We did stupid shit. And we put the defense in a tough spot at times, and we didn't get it done. And you could say the Green Bay game, same thing. It wasn't always pretty. Gave up a bad 4th down conversion for a touchdown on the opening possession of the game. Yep, the offense puked all over itself on the opening possession of the second half. When Taylor Heineke was hit, he fumbled the ball, and Green Bay set up with a great field position. You can stop them and make them kick a field goal, though. They give up a touchdown. That said, they really shut that Green Bay Packers offense down in that game and gave us a chance to win, and we didn't. The Denver Broncos game, look, they weren't outstanding. They weren't great, but they were good enough. We gave up 17 effing points. Supposed to be able to win in this league when you give up 17 points. We scored 10, just like we did against Green Bay when we lost that game. I said all of that to say this. We gave up, 20 in the loss to the Chargers, and the last 7 of which came on a fumble inside our own 5-yard line. Now, granted, they were moving the ball up and down the field. If you watch the game, they were 14 of 18 on 3rd downs. I mean, how many games are you going to win giving up that shit, right? But when they needed to make stops, they forced 2 turnovers, down on our end of the field, 1 in the red zone, 1 approaching the red zone, a fumble and an interception. And so they got the stops. They did what they had to do. We were up 16-13 with less than 8 minutes to go in the ball game. So the defense wasn't great, but that wasn't the reason we were asked last year. The reason we were asked is because, like the year previous, we couldn't score any damn points. Shit, the last 3 years, going back to 2019, where we literally had a month in which a stretch of football that spanned a month where we didn't score a single touchdown. That is so hard to do in today's NFL. We went almost a whole month without scoring a touchdown. It's crazy. But we were terrible in 19. We weren't very good offensively in 2020. And we weren't that much better in 2021. We had our moments. The Giants game, Falcons game, the Bucks game, the Panthers game. Those are pretty much the outliers. Those are the 4 games where we actually had offensive output. We pretty much stunk on offense for the other 13 games in 2021. So, if you ask me, the single biggest reason we can be a much better football team is because of the offense. We got ourselves a guy at the quarterback position, but we also have talent around that guy. That helps too. So, feeling really good. Like, in my mind, you can't be any worse than we've been the last 3 years on offense. You can't be any worse. We've been terrible on offense. It's a miracle when we score 30 points. It feels like a special day. It feels like Christmas. We scored 30 plus points last year twice. The Giants game, I don't even know if that was a plus. I think that was 30 on the head. Right? I think that was 30 on the head. And then the Falcons game, I don't think we scored 30 plus again the remainder of the season. We had a chance against Tampa. You remember, I was pissed off because we didn't kick the field extra point because we didn't want it to get blocked, and that was the only way Tampa could come back. So we took a knee, and we scored 29, and we won that game 29-19. So we only scored 30 plus twice last year, or we only scored 30 or more. Let me say it that way. Twice. There are stretches where good offensive teams scored 30 4 weeks in a row, 5 weeks. We might have scored 30 points or more 4 times combined the last 3 seasons. Hell, I don't think we scored 30 at all in 2019. I could be wrong about that. I don't know how I'm wrong about that. We were anemic offensively. I think our best game in 2019 offensively was week 1 against the Eagles. I'd say that we didn't score 30 points or more at all in 19. I think we did it once in 2020, which was the Cowboys game. And that was a 40-point outburst. And then we did it twice. You know how hard it is to go 3 years and only score north of 30 or 30 or more 3 times? Think about that. Even the worst teams in the league have an offensive outburst twice in a season, which puts them at like 6 in 3 years, bare minimum. We're a joke. We've been a joke offensively. I think that shit stops this year. That's why I'm so excited. For the first time in a long time, we've got a chance to have a real, dangerous, explosive, and dynamic NFL offense. Hell, just make me an average offense. We haven't even been that. Let me score my little 27 points and be happy. We haven't even been that team. I'm with you, chill, dude. Thank you for the super chat. Washington fan forever 79. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, it's funny these Eagles fans think Hurts rental car is the next great QB. It's not all of them. I think there's a good portion of that fan base that understands, hey, this dude is literally a rental. Okay, like he's keeping the quarterback seat warm for the next guy, whomever that may be. He says, we all know what he is. He's trash. Can't pass the ball if his life depended on it. Wentz is going to destroy the Eagles. We have more talented team. We'll see if we have the more talented team. I feel like we're very comparable when it comes to the Eagles. Excuse me. I think we have, more depth than the Eagles. front line talent wise, I think the Eagles may still have us, but not by much. And I think what ultimately wins it out is just we have more depth. If the Eagles have to go to their bench, I think that's when they could get into some trouble. Like, they don't have any depth in their secondary. It's a very thin group. They have one guy go down, they're in trouble, right? Receivers wise, like they've got two guys really that you feel like could hurt you in Devontae Smith and AJ Brown. After those guys, I mean, are you really relying on Jalen Reagor? Is Quez Watkins really going to be a guy that you want starting? No, the answer is no. And you can say the same about us. You know, you got Terry, you got Jahan, you got Curtis Samuel. Do you want Curtis Samuel starting? I don't mind. But maybe Eagles fans are like, hey, throw him in there. Let's see what he can do. I don't trust him. That's fine. I feel like we go deep enough. But we don't want De'Ami Brown or, you know, some of you are like, yo, I don't mind Cam Sims starting. So anyway, I said all of that to say this. They might have the advantage frontline starters. I think their offensive line is better than ours from a talent standpoint. I think their tight end position is better than ours from a talent standpoint. I think we have a better running back room, slightly, not by much, but slightly. I think our wide receiver room is better than theirs. I think our quarterback room is better than theirs. Defensively, I think our defensive line is better than theirs. But I think we took a huge step backwards defensive tackle wise. And I think that's where they closed the gap. Defensive end wise, I think we got them, you know, but defensive tackle wise, I think they got us. So it closed the gap considerably. But they don't have any depth at defensive end. They didn't have any last year. Linebacker, it's a wash. They don't love their linebackers. We don't love our linebackers. And I think we might have the edge in the secondary, personally. I know they got Darius Slay, and they added another corner. I can't think of who they added, but they added another corner. But I don't think their secondary is very good right now. So I think we have the edge in the secondary. We're definitely deeper. That's where I think we went out. The depth is where we're different. But at the end of the day, you got to go out and get it done. And they swept us last year. Facts is facts. They swept us. You know, there were circumstances clearly that impacted us, but they swept us. You know, you talk to an Eagles fan, they don't give a shit about injuries or COVID or none of that shit. They don't want to hear that. When we step between the white lines, we kicked your ass twice. Facts. I got nothing to say. And the year before that, when we stepped in between the white lines, we didn't want to hear nothing about Jalen Hurts getting benched and them putting Nate Sudfeld. We didn't want to hear that shit. We were going to beat y'all anyway. Kept Hurts in or not. We were going to beat you any damn way. You know? We don't want to hear any excuses. We didn't want to hear any then, and they don't want to hear any now. So I think we're going to beat them twice. But we'll see what happens. Can't beat them twice without beating them once first. Take care of the Eagles in week 3 at FedEx, and then we can have a whole great discussion about that massive week 10 matchup on Monday night. But gotta take care of business in week 3 first at the crib. Let's see. All right. Got a super chat here from Kevin the PRF. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Kevin the PRF writes, everyone says 18, 19. Heck, if we get 2021 wins for 17 games, I'm still at an 8. So the 2021 wins was solid. Solid as a rock. Here's the problem. There were also games in there, and I've talked about this already, where he wasn't great, where he left a lot of meat on the bone. And, yeah, some of those performances came post-COVID, and he was never the same guy after he got COVID. That's well documented. Okay, the Raiders' performance, the Jags' performance, both post-COVID, both arguably his 2 worst performances of the year. But How about the left-handed interception he threw against the Tennessee Titans? How about the fumbled, quarterback sneak he had against the Rams? These things happened. There were games in there, winnable games, where he struggled. Where he made mistakes. So, where he missed some throws. But to your point, if we get 27 touchdowns over 7 interceptions, I don't care how it's amassed. If we get 27 touchdowns over 7 interceptions, how is it not at bare minimum at 8, right? I'm with you 110%, Kevin, the PRF. But he was more of a game manager in 2021. The reason we keep referencing 17 and 18 and 19 in particular is because he was playing like a superstar. He was dragging in 18 and 19, he was dragging a lifeless Eagles offense to the playoffs, especially in 19 in particular. And in 17, before the injury, he was playing at an MVP-like level. He had talent on that team. He's playing at an MVP-like level. So that's why we keep referencing 17, 18, 19. And 21 is kind of like ho-humish because that was Jonathan Taylor's offense. That wasn't Carson Wentz's offense. He was a passenger. And when called upon, he made some throws. He showed the flashes of why he's that guy at times. But for the most part, his job was not to screw things up. I'm looking for more than that in Washington because we're not a run-first football team. As much as Ron would love this team to morph into what Indianapolis was last year, tough, hard-nosed defense, run the football, bludgeon you to death with the run game, and then hold on for dear life 20-15, like we did, in a number of contests last year, specifically against Vegas and Seattle. As much as Ron would love that to be our identity, that's not who we are. Not even remotely close to who we are as a football team. Which is why you go out and get Jahan Dotson, which is why you draft De'Ami Brown the year before, which is why you bring in Curtis Samuel, which is why you add all of these, Cole Turner and all these offensive weapons, because this ain't a rushing league anymore. Yeah, look, it helps to run the football. And if you can run it and get enough play out of your quarterback and enough defense, you too can play all the way into February. Sure. Titans almost did it 2 years ago. 3 years ago, almost ran their way all the way to the Super Bowl. Eventually, if you got Ryan Tannehill at quarterback, the league's going to catch up to you. You can't you can no longer win a Super Bowl with Trent Dilfer as your quarterback. Hell, Brad Johnson had a much better career. It's going to be hard as a bitch to win a Super Bowl with Brad Johnson at quarterback in today's NFL. The way shit's set up. It just is. You need a dog at quarterback. You do. We got a guy that has the ability to be a dog. That's why we have a chance this year. So 2021 Wentz, if we get him, we're going to be right in the mix. But if you really want a chance to do some real serious damage, you want the 18, 19, you want the 17, 18, 19 wins. That's what you want. Thank you for the super chat, Kevin, the PRF. Let's see. I think I got another super chat. Let's see. I don't want to miss any. All right. So that was the last one we read. Here's another one here from Rob U. Thank you for the super chat, Rob U. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Rob U, writes, after Terry signs, who is the next to get extended? I think the next logical guy, and I don't think he's going to get it this offseason. Like, Terry's going to be the only guy that they re-signed. All the guys that are going to get re-signed this offseason have already been re-signed, other than Terry. They took care of Bobby McCain and Charles Leno at the end of last year. All those guys that they decided to bring back. Cam Sims was another guy they brought back. Danny Johnson was another guy they brought back. Like, they took care of all the guys they wanted to bring back already. So as far as I'm concerned, Terry will be the last this year. But I think at the top, if he plays well, and I think that's why they gave him, middle linebacker spot this year, and say, okay, let's see what you got. You asked for this, we're giving it to you. It's Cole Holcomb. If he balls this year, he'll be a free agent at the end of the year. And I think he'll be high on the priority list to bring back. And generally speaking, if you want your middle linebacker back in the NFL climate, you can have your middle linebacker back. Like, teams aren't running, and trying to snatch up your middle linebackers. The market isn't usually hot and heavy for middle linebackers. So if Cole Holcomb is playing at a high level, he's going to get his here in Washington. So I think that's the next guy after Terry. Obviously Daron Payne has been a topic of discussion, but I already said this. If he has a massive year, then I think there is a discussion to be had. If he doesn't, I think they're going to allow him to walk because you can't pay everybody. And I think they're right now setting their sights on paying Montez Sweat next offseason. Cole Holcomb is a guy that next offseason I think will get his as well. And then that's when you got to exercise your fifth-year option on Chase. And then if he has a big year this year, then you're looking to try to get something done with him not there long after, right? If he doesn't, then, if I think this could kind of play into the Daron Payne discussion. If Chase Young stinks this year, and he's coming off of an injury, but if he's still playing at that level he was playing at prior to the injury, with 1.5 sacks through like 10 games or whatever the case may be, then maybe they think about re-signing Daron Payne, because I feel like it's a or situation. It's not an and situation. You can't pay Daron Payne and Chase Young and Montez Sweat. I think you could pay Montez Sweat and Chase Young. But you can't pay all three of those guys. So you have to pick one. And maybe instead of it being Young and Sweat, maybe it's Payne and Sweat. So I don't know. That's just a little food for thought. But I think the next guy up to get paid is going to be Cole Holcomb. Cole Holcomb. Metaphor, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, Metaphor, writes, #17 or number 17. What a man, what a man, what a man, what a mighty good man. Yes, he is. Oh. Say it again now. Yeah, go ahead. He's a hell of a man. I always, when you say what a man, I always think about that grown man catch he had against Tampa Bay, right? Into that ball game, you don't want to give it back to Brady, right? That's the one thing you don't want to do in this situation. You settle for a field goal, you go up 6. Brady gets this bitch and takes it all the way down the field and scores a touchdown, kick an extra point, you lose by 1. For as good as you've played, for as much of this game as you've dominated, you give it back to Brady in this situation, you're going to get your ass beat. And what does Terry do? Terry makes a hell of a grab on a 3rd down. I want to say it was a 3rd down when we had to have it. And that I told you guys after that game, that was the single most physical football game I've seen this team play in probably the last 3 to 5 years. It was the Bucks were hitting out there, and it was all legal. Okay, all of it. They were flying around, smoking dudes. And even after the game, you had offensive linemen, you had Antonio Gibson, and even Terry. Terry did not speak after the game, I don't think, but I think that Wednesday, Terry's like, that was a physical game. Antonio Gibson after the game was like, yo, that's one of the most physical games I've ever played in. And you had offensive linemen, I can't remember if it was Sheriff or if it was Charles Leno Jr., but one of them dudes was like, yo, that was some physical shit that went down on Sunday. Like, yeah, that was serious. It was a hell of a game. Terry takes that hit across the middle, gets up. First of all, I'm like, Terry, get up. Terry, get up. I had to make sure I had the defibrillators out. I was ready to go clear, I was ready to shock his ass. I'm like, Terry, not now. First, I was cussing out Taylor Heineke for even putting him in that position. You dumb son of a. And then Terry pops up like, I'm good, bro. I'm good. I'm like, ah! That's my guy. That's my dog. That's my dog. And that's when I said, he is that dog. He is that dog. You know, because there were people questioning. We talked about this before. Chris Cooley saying he wasn't the number one receiver, this, that, and the third. There were people questioning Terry. And it was games like that where I said, hey, you can't question this man. Wrong guy. You're barking up the wrong tree. Because the beauty of it is, and hey, those who know. They'll tell you, hey, it's 17. I remember when we played the Steelers in 2020, and he said this was their defensive game plan coming into the game. Slow down 24, which they did because he got a toe injury on the second carry of the game. Slow down 24. Stop 17. Watch out for 41 on third downs. That was their game plan going into the game. That was our offense in 2020. Slow down 24. Stop 17. Make somebody else beat you. Look for 41 on third downs. That's as simple as it gets. I mean, that was our offense in 2020. And it wasn't that much damn different in 2021. I mean, at least we had 82 and 20. Shit, we didn't even have him in 2021. So, the game plan was simple for teams. Hey, we're not letting 24 get off and let him dominate like he did against the Cowboys on Thanksgiving. Not letting that shit happen. We're not going to take the pressure off of whomever's at quarterback. Make them beat us. And, oh, by the way, if they're going to beat us, make sure they're not getting it to 17. We're going to double his ass. And Terry's still putting up 82, 112, 93, 119. And you look up at the end of the season and he's got 1,100 yards receiving. How? I don't know. With 4 different quarterbacks, 3 different quarterbacks. I don't know. Don't ask me. I can't tell you. With no help. No supporting cast. Other team knows he's getting the rock. Safety's cheating over to his side. Bracketing him with another defender underneath. And yet he still finds a way to make plays. Which is why he's going to get paid. Which is why he's going to get paid. John Livingston, my guy, JL Smooth. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, JL 105.3. Smooth. Writes, what up, Lou? What up, John? He says, hope all is well, my guy. It is. Likewise, hope everything's going on well on your side of things. Man, I hate this time of the year. Everyone talking out of the side of their necks about rookies they haven't seen play it down yet. Not saying you, but Dotson in general, and the same with us with Elam. This is how it goes this time of the year. There's nothing else to talk about. You've gone through OTAs, you've gone through minicamp, and you've listened to all of the sound bites. You've heard people ranting and raving about these young players. And of course, that's what happens this time of the year. There's no football. There's no distractions. Nothing to, turn the conversation and steer it in this direction. You're just thinking about the what ifs. Everybody's got a chance this time of the year. Why not us? That's the chant right now. Why not us? Yeah. And the rookie talk can get a little bit over the top right now. Sure. And it has every right to be. First round picks get you excited. People love the draft. And you want to see these guys pay off huge dividends. You want to see them pay off huge dividends immediately. And unfortunately for us, on the offensive side of the football, we really haven't been able to say that about a first round pick. Really, we've been spending a lot of our first round draft capital on defensive players in general. But we really haven't been able to really be excited about a first round offensive talent in quite some time. I think the last time we picked an offensive player in the first round might have been Josh Dotson. We saw how that went. Hell, even all of our second round picks have been brutal. I think we may have a chance to change that with Sam Cosmi. But before that, the Darius Geises of the world and the Sua Cravens and, the list goes on and on and on with all the failed second-round picks. We struggled on offense. So it's going to be refreshing if Jahan Dotson is as advertised, but only one way to find out. And I totally get it. It's only one way to find out. And that's to see them on the field, getting it done. So can't be mad, though. You know, that's what fans do. They get excited about new toys. John Livingston, my guy, JL Smooth, thank you for becoming the newest member of the MOBB. Stand up! You know what it is. Welcome to the MOBB. Mob, you know what to do. Welcome, my guy, JL Smooth, with open arms to the squad. Looking forward to chopping it up with you. As always, man, one of my favorite guys to chop it up with, JL Smooth. Welcome to the squad. Glad to have you. All right. Let's see. We got any more supers? All right, so we got another super chat here, and it is from John Livingston. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, my guy, JL Smooth. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. JL Smooth writes, Rip Tony Saragusa, thoughts and prayers to his family and friends. Rewatch the Hard Knocks with the 2000 or 2001. I think it was the 01 Ravens after they won the Super Bowl. And Sharp still wants restitution. That was a really funny Hard Knocks. They had a lot of characters on that team. It was a brutal day for the Ravens yesterday. They lost a current player in Jalen Ferguson, and then they lost a legend, a guy that helped them win a Super Bowl, in Tony Saragusa. And I was going to talk about this. I'm still going to talk about it on the podcast. I won't talk about it too much here because I really wanted to talk about it on the podcast. But it's just crazy how they say death comes in threes. And we had 3 deaths, like bam, bam, bam. You know, I don't know the Brig Owens guy. I wasn't even counting him, but that's 4. But that's 3 NFL deaths if you count Brig Owens, and it's 4 if you count Caleb Swanigan, who died at the age of like 25. That's crazy. So we'll talk more about that tomorrow. It's a sad state of affairs. He was only 55, way too young. I can't help but think it had something to do with his size. He's a big man. You know, you see some NFL players immediately upon retiring shed 60, 70 pounds. I remember seeing Jordan Gross, who was a 310-pound tackle for the Carolina Panthers for a number of years, and a Pro Bowl, all-pro type tackle for, you know, many years of his career. And immediately upon retiring, he went from 310 to like 220, almost unnoticeable, unrecognizable. Like, what the hell is that? Is that Jordan Gross? He looked great. Same thing with Sean O'Hare. You know, you see him on the NFL Network and some of these, you know, other, you know, networks and things of that nature. And he looks great. You know, he went from a 300-pound center to probably like, you know, 215. Like, you got to get that weight up off you, man. That shit is not healthy for you. You know, it's a requirement of your job to be that heavy and big. But as soon as you're no longer in the league, you got to get that weight up off you. And some of these dudes, they like to eat. Like, that wasn't them having that weight on just because they were playing football and it was a part of the job. They love to eat. And he was, you know, I'm not saying that he, you know, was still that size, but even after he retired and he was working for Fox, and he worked for Fox for like a decade, he was still a big man. So I like to think it has something to do with that, but I could be wrong. He could have gotten COVID for all I know and died from complications of that. I don't know. Still awaiting, you know, all the, you know, information on him, Swanigan, and Jalen Ferguson. They're saying Ferguson was a overdose. I don't like to believe anything that people say, or, when something happens in the first 24 hours. I'm just going to wait and let them tell me, toxicology report or, what was in his system. And then we'll find out what was going on there. It's just a sad state of affairs, though. Anyway, I digress. Let's see. Metaphor. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Metaphor, writes, 1,000 yards from you is never enough because Ron just don't want to stop. Paying Terry too much. Terry too much. Terry too much. A million bills in your heart. It's never too much, man. It's never too much. I would say that Ron understands the importance of what Terry McLaurin means to this organization, which is why it's going to get done. So the reason Ron said, "Hey, we're not trading him." It was funny. I got a kick out of those Colts fans who got excited for like a good 3-4 days there. People kept bringing that thing to me like, "Oh, did you see Terry might be going to the Colts?" No, he's not. I shut that down immediately, and I didn't even want to talk about it. I was like, it's not happening. Like, I don't even know. I get it. He's from Indiana. I think he's from Indiana, and I did not know this, right? But you know how players do when they're in their pocket, and apparently Terry liked a tweet from a Indianapolis Colts fan that said something to the effect of, "Why don't you come home," to that to that effect, and Terry liked it or whatever. You know how that is. The man wants to get paid. He wants to do it here in Washington, but you on social media for a little while, you in your feelings, and you see a tweet, somebody at you, you just happen to be up there, you like the tweet, you keep it pushing. I don't think it's something you just put a lot of stock into, but I didn't know that had happened. So that probably fueled Colts fans a little bit more. But what you got to understand, and I always, he's not a free agent, right? Like, he doesn't get to choose where he goes. Even if he didn't get a contract done here, he's still under contract this year. They're going to franchise tag him next year for sure if they don't get a deal done. And again, at that point, you lost him, if you ask me. This is why you have to get it done this year. Because if he gets to free agency next year, you franchise tag him. At that point, she's in Brandon Sheriff territory. He's in Kirk Cousins land. I have no incentive to sign a long-term deal with you now because you're going to pay me. You're going to pay me again. And then if you franchise me a second time, I'm going after that. Now, here's the thing about Terry. And I don't think it matters for him and his position as long as he's still playing at a high level. He's still going to get paid. Allen Robinson got franchise tagged twice, if I'm not mistaken, by the Bears. He ends up getting a deal with the Rams, and I think he's either 30 or 31 now. He's up there. If he's not, he's 29, and he's knocking on the door of 30. Still got a deal, right? Terry's going to be in that same boat. I think Terry's about to turn 27 in September, if I'm not mistaken. So if you franchise him next year, he'll be 28. If you franchise him again, he'll be 29, and he'll still get a deal going into his 30, season, 30, right? Season, what would that be for him? 7 at the age of 30. He's still going to get a deal from somebody long term. So doesn't matter. If you're Terry and you don't get your deal, now I got you by the balls, and I'm not going to let go. It's like, Friday after next. You're giving a pair of vice grips to Money Mike, right? And you're telling him, here goes his balls, or in this case, the Commander's balls, and you get to crunch those bad boys, and you don't have to let them go. So we'll see what happens. I think I already know how this movie ends. So we'll see. Anyway, thank you for the super chat. Metaphor. Damn Twin Shorty Sublime. Thank you for becoming a member. Stand up. You are officially the newest member of the MOBB mob. You know what to do. Show Damn Twin Shorty Sublime some love. Welcome him with open arms. Love it when we get new members. It's a beautiful thing. Damn twin Shorty Sublime, welcome to the MOBB. Looking forward to chopping it up with you here with the squad. Welcome aboard. All right. Let's see. Mr. Ron B, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up, Mr. Ron B, who writes a nice story in Washington Post about Gibson's improved diet and body composition. Will be nice if it translates to more explosive plays. Your thoughts? The minute that I saw him, first and foremost, before I even knew what he was trying to do, I said, man, Gibby looks like he shed some weight. I seen him. He was at, he had a little camp for the kids over the spring. And there was a conversation there was an interview that he gave at the end of it, talking about giving back to the kids and things of that nature. I saw him and I was like, damn, Gibby looked like he's in phenomenal shape. And then there was another interview with him when and you guys, this is one that I know you guys have seen multiple times on socials, where he pretty much said, if we want all of the other stuff to go away, we just need to win. I'm trying to win this year. We need to win. And you see him in that interview and you're like, damn, Gibby looks damn good. He's in phenomenal shape. And then you get to OTAs for the first time, and he finally steps up to the mic and he's like, yeah, I'm looking to get into better shape to be more explosive. I didn't feel like I was myself last year in terms of explosiveness. I'm trying to get back to that where, I'm breaking off these big runs. And so kind of reminds me, and it actually is the opposite though, but kind of reminds me of Clinton Portis. When Clinton Portis first came to the NFL as a Denver Bronco, when he rushed for over 1,400 yards in back-to-back seasons and was the rushing champ, you all remember seeing the pose of him with the championship belt on going like this. Clinton Portis was in the best shape of his life. Probably was like 215, maybe 210, 215, and hauling ass. He got to Washington, and it went from him getting 22 carries for, 205 yards, 21 carries for 112 yards to, hey, Joe Gibbs is about to ride your ass for 28 carries, for 34 carries. And so he knew he had to bulk up. And so remember the first run Clinton Portis had in a Washington uniform against the Buccaneers? Shit went for like 65. I don't know if we got another one of those the rest of his career, not one that went for a touchdown at least. I know he had a big run against the Chiefs in a terrible game where the stadium was half filled and he didn't even score on that play. He got tackled at like the 5 and we ended up not scoring a touchdown on that possession. But there weren't any more big runs from Clinton Portis. It was, 4 yards here, 7 yards, 12, punishing runs, physicality, but the speed was gone. That he didn't possess that anymore because he bulked up to be a more physical runner, to be able to withstand the punishment that he was going to take because Joe Gibbs was going to ride him. Gibby first of all, when we drafted him, he was 230, right? Like that was the weight he was listed at. He's a big dude, but he was a 4'3" dude as well. So he's like, hey, he's big and he's fast. This is perfect. Then he got here and we saw the speed. We've seen flashes. We saw it last year when he caught the screen against Buffalo. You saw the run he had against the Ravens in his rookie season. He had a jet sweep he got against Dallas where he almost scored. He did have a big game against the Cowboys on Thanksgiving, the second time we played them, and he did score a touchdown from probably like 35 yards out or whatever. You could see some explosiveness at times, but we still haven't seen like that whoa from Gibby. And I think he's trying to, have that whoa and that wow factor back this year to where, he gets a crease and it's bye-bye. So I'm looking forward to it now. So in my mind, I'm thinking that he'll be just fine because I think he's going to have a lighter load in terms of the amount of carries that he has, because I think it's a 3-headed backfield now. It used to be just 2 between him and JD. Now, Brian Robinson is going to get his fair share of touches. So I think Gibby will be allowed to not be as big and not have to take on as much punishment and still be equally, if not even more effective with the touches that he does get. So I like the fact that he cut weight. You know, it also reminds me of Le'Veon Bell. When he first came in the league, he was super heavy. And then he cut weight and got in the best shape of his career, and he became the dominant back that nobody in the league could really stop. So we'll see what this translates to for Gibby. In my mind, we're going to see an explosive version of Gibby, and I like that. I like it a lot. So I'm looking forward to it. 1/6 Devil Doc, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. I think this is a double up. Double up. I ain't sure. I'm not sure, but just in case. Greatly appreciate you. 1/6 Double Doc. Tell your wife I said hello. Writes. Roster prediction. 3 quarterbacks, 3 running backs, 6 wide receivers, 10 offensive linemen, and 3 tight ends. Let's stop there. So that's 13, 19, 22, 25 on the offensive side of the football. I think that's not enough. 25 on the offensive side. That means you're going to have 28 on the defensive side. I think that's too big of a discrepancy. Let's go, though. D-line, you got 9, 6 linebackers, 10 DBs, 3 specialists. No, I'm wrong. You're right. So there's 25, 25, 3. I forgot about the specialists. So 25, 25, 3. I could see that happening. I think it's going to be more on one side than the other. I think it's going to be more on the offensive side than the defensive side. I think the D-line, instead of 9, you go 8 there. And I think you end up putting that extra spot at tight end. So 4 tight ends instead of 3 tight ends. But I think you're pretty much spot on there with your numbers. I just would take one of the defensive linemen, and you might go 9 because of Chase Young, so that extra guy initially is there that may not ultimately be there. But I'm thinking the same thing for Logan Thomas. If he's not available, you go with the extra guy, because unlike Chase, I don't know if Chase will be ready for the first month of the season. I think Logan might be ready, the second or third week of the season. So there's no need to, Chase is already on the PUP list. They haven't announced that Logan Thomas is going to start camp on the PUP list, because I don't know if they feel the need to put him on the PUP list. Whereas Chase is on the PUP list, and I don't know if he gets taken off the PUP list, to be honest with you, to start the season off. So I think you would be able to fill his roster spot without him taking up a roster spot because he's on the PUP list. Meanwhile, Logan Thomas will count as a roster spot, but you're still going to fill his position because he's not playing. So that would force you to keep a 4th tight end instead of a extra defensive end. So I think it's 8 defensive linemen and 4 tight ends. We'll see what happens. Good projection though. 1/6 Double Dot. Duncan Wright, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Duncan Wright writes, you talk of earning respect. How about Dallas Giants respect? Daniel Jones and Dak Prescott were told to run more. Sure sounds like a copycat respect to me. I don't even know what you're talking about there. I have no clue. I can't even make sense of what you just said. But Jalen Hurts is a running quarterback. Daniel Jones, his best attribute to date right now is his ability to run. Dak Prescott came in the league. He ran a lot more early in his career. He became a much more proficient passer as his career progressed to the point now where Dak Prescott really isn't running anywhere. Not unless it's out of necessity. He's not really running anywhere. Okay. He's going to run even less now after he broke his ankle. He rarely ran last year. So, again, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. But at the end of the day, there's nothing wrong with using a quarterback's athleticism, which is what the Eagles did with Jalen Hurts. I'm not telling them not to. But at some point, you're going to have to throw the football. That's what it all boils down to. When you play the quarterback position, yeah, if you're a dynamic athlete, I think you should display that. This is why Daniel Jones is at his best when his athleticism is a part of the offense, which I think they're going to use with Brian Daboll as their new offensive coordinator and head coach. They're going to use Daniel Jones's legs and have that be a huge part of the offense, and it's going to make him a better quarterback. However, at some point, Daniel Jones is going to have to stand back there and deliver the football consistently, or else he's not going to work. Same thing can be said for any other quarterback in this league, including Jalen Hurts. At some point, you're going to have to continue to progress as a passer from the pocket. And if you cannot do that, if there are not incremental gains being had year after year, like it was with Dak Prescott, again, came into the league as more of a mobile quarterback, boots and things of that nature. And as time progressed, he got more and more comfortable in the pocket, became more and more cerebral from the pocket, to the point now where he doesn't run a whole lot of read option and quarterback keeps. They don't do a lot of that. They do some of that to keep you honest, but for the most part, Dak's under center. He's behind the center in the pocket looking to deliver the football and distribute. And you got to be able to do that in this league. And Jalen Hurts isn't doing that at a very high level now. And that's not to say he can't get better, but I don't see it. I don't see it. Let's see. All right. Metaphor. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy Metaphor writes, Lou, that logo though above your head. So let's take a moment. Let's take a second to acknowledge the artwork, the masterful artwork and the masterpiece that is the work of one Mr. Metaphor here. So the LTN logo that you see above me right here, that's all my guy Metaphor. So I told you guys that I was working on some stuff and that Metaphor kind of helped push the fast forward button. He helped that process be moved along at a much more rapid rate, much more expeditiously, if you will. That's because he was able to provide me with a logo that kind of matched what I was thinking, where I was trying to go with, the Washington Commanders and, everything that they had done. And he put together a bunch of logos for me to choose from. First of all, I did not ask him to do this, so it was out of the kindness of his heart. I thought it was a awesome gesture. I was floored that he took the time out of his life to do something like this, and it was unwarranted. I was, again, shocked, floored, grateful. All of those emotions came over me when he sent me the email, and it was about like 6 or 7 different versions of LTN, and he was like, hey, choose one of these or all of them, whatever, and if you need them in different colors, let me know. And I chose that one, and it was funny because I didn't even choose that one. I was like, hey, I need it in different colors, and he not only obliged, but I didn't give him the actual one that I liked the most. I just told him I needed it in different colors, and he knew which one looked the best. And he did it. So shout out to my guy Metaphor for the blessing, man. It looks great. I'm glad that I was able to insert that LTN in there and take out the Washington logo, because this is completely my logo now. Before I still had the Washington logo in there, so it wasn't completely mine. Now that is my complete crest. So thank you for putting the finishing touches on that, Metaphor. I mean, you are the real MVP, and can't thank you enough for what you were able to provide for me and allowing me to continue on. And the logos that you blessed me with, they're going to go a long way, man. I mean, it's going to be a huge part of the design and the look of a lot of my Washington content. So once again, thank you so much, Metaphor. Big shout out to my guy, Metaphor. If you're out there in the chat, show Metaphor some love. Let's see. Duncan Wright. Thank you. Stand up, Duncan. You may be an Eagles fan, but you still a member now of the Mob Squad. You're officially in the building. Mob, you know what to do. Show Duncan Wright some love. Greatly appreciate my guy Duncan for joining us. Look forward to chopping it up with him. And look, we're going to have plenty of discussions surrounding the Eagles. And look, Duncan, this is the one thing you can be assured of. All right. Whether you remain a member of the Mob Squad or we sweep you, you get pissed off, you leave, or you kill us twice, you know where to find me. Whether you're a member of the mob or not, you know where to find me. I'm not ducking. I'm not dodging. I'll be here. I may be pissed off when you come back, especially if we lose, but I'm going to be here. You know where to find me. And I'm not running. I'm not ducking. I'm not dodging. And that's the beauty of doing what I do, is that you know where to find me. You don't have to look. You don't have to search for me. You don't have to wait to see if I come back. I'm here. I'm always be here. I ain't going nowhere. So, and I'm glad to know you're here and you're not going anywhere and you're a member of the Mob Squad. And I look forward to chopping it up with you, Mob. You know what to do. Show Duncan some love. Welcome him, despite him being an Eagles fan. Show him some love. And there are Eagles fans that are already a part of the MOBB. We're adding another one to the mix. I always look forward to chopping it up with fans of other teams. So I look forward to having you be amongst the squad. Duncan, welcome aboard. Joe Rockhead J, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, Joe Rockhead J, writes, what's up, Luke? What's up, Joe Rockhead? Says, I'm trying to stay even keel. I want to believe, but I'm tired of trying to justify failure with a all we need monologue. That's fair. I told you guys, however you feel is fair. I'm not one of those fans that, he jumped off the bandwagon and now he's back. No, this team and this organization, has made it tough to be a fan over the last 20 years. So it's easy for somebody to say, you know what, I'm out. I don't have time for this shit. I got better things to do with my life. I can't keep wasting 3 hours on Sunday that I can't get back. I'm out. And I'm not mad at that fan. And if that fan wants to come back, you're more than welcome to. There's plenty of space left for you to come back when you're ready. When they give you a reason to cheer. They haven't given us a lot of reasons to cheer. And, to the fans that want to believe, they're not going anywhere. They're not quitting, but they want to believe, but they can't. I get that too. You get these fans that are like, oh, you're negative. You're negative. No, I'm just real. You can't be mad at somebody for being real. You want somebody to think this team is going 17-0 every year, and that shit is not possible. First of all, it's not possible here. Maybe somewhere else. That's not plausible here in Washington. We're just happy, and we're just trying to win double-digit games. Hell, we're trying to be over 500. Let's start with that first. Crawl before you can walk. So you got to keep it in perspective. And as good as this schedule looks, as much talent as we feel like we may have, as much maturation has gone on, and having a quarterback and all these things that give you confidence to feel like this could be a different year, still the Washington Redskins / football team / Commanders. And usually, like Charlie Brown, when he thinks he's about to kick the ball, like Lucy always does, she pulls the football from under him as he goes to kick it, goes flying in the air and falls flat on his back. That's usually us as fans. Every time we get hyped up about this team or some part of this team, whether it's defense, oh my God, this offense has a chance to be this, that, and the third with Ryan Fitzpatrick. That wasn't me, but that was some of y'all out there. And 13 plays in, he's flat on his damn back, done for the season. Like, there's always Lucy waiting, this organization in this case, always waiting to pull the football from under us. And we always fall flat on our damn back, out of breath, having put our faith in this organization yet again and having it slap us in the face yet again with disappointment and failure. So I get it. I'm here to tell you this feels different, but I can't tell you to feel different. Okay. Let me say that again. I'm here to tell you that this feels different, but I can't tell you to feel different because they've preconditioned us to hope for the best, but expect the worst. And when your brain is wired to think that way, it's hard to rewire it to think positively all the time. I'm trying. I am. I'm really trying. And I wanted tonight to be an 8, but it's got to be a 7 for me. Thank you for the super chat, Joe Rockhead J. All right. Let's see. Got another super chat here from HTTR for life. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, my guy, HTTR for life. I think this is your 3rd of the night, but if not, double up. I'm pretty sure you already doubled up, though. But my guy, HTTR for life writes, they've been talking wild in the chat. They always talk wild in the chat, man. The chat is a zoo. That's why shout out to my girl, Condo P, and any other mods that I may have, but mainly Condo P, Metaphor, a couple of others hold me down in the chat. It's always crazy in the chat, man. Always crazy in the chat. So it's a jungle out there, man. Welcome to the jungle. A lot of fun and games going on in there, man. But that's why I love it. I love having all of that going on, as I'm having a conversation, y'all having y'all own sidebar conversations. So it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. Let's see. Got another new member of the MOBB. Charles Reed, stand up. You are officially in the building as the newest member of the MOBB mob. You know what to do. Show Charles Reed some love. Welcome him with open arms. Let him know that he is loved and a part of a special group. And I do want to say this as well, and then I'll finish welcoming Charles to the squad. Two of the members of the MOBB, my girl Condo P, and of course our guy Big Money Sonny, have put together a Discord. Remember we talked about that, in the past about having a Discord, and I told you it was too much for me. I couldn't do it. But they took it upon themselves to create a Discord for the Mob Squad, and they got it up and running. And I got to go check it out. I had him send me the link, so I'm going to go check it out, see what that thing's talking about over there. I still don't know what the hell I'm doing. But for those of you who are members of the mob and you want to check it out, that's going to be a place where we put a lot of information in there and, chop it up with one another. And maybe that's where we'll do the, streams for the game or something. I don't know. We'll figure some things out with the Discord, but I did want to put that out there so that you guys will know that it exists. And Condo P, I don't know how it works, so I don't know if you got to have a password or I don't know any of that stuff. But Condo P, if you have the link to it, if you want to leave that in the comment section for them, by all means. If you want to send it to me and I can put it in the community chat for the mob members, I can do that as well. However you guys want to go about it, but I just thought I'd mention it on the show. And I think that over the last couple of streams, they've been promoting it in the stream, but I just figured I'd say something about it as well. I want to give a huge shout out to Big Money Sonny and Condo P. Again, going above and beyond the Call of Duty to, make something happen. Because, I was trying to work on something behind the scenes that fell through, and they worked diligently to continue to work on that Discord, despite me saying, hey, I'm gonna see if I can get this thing up and running and see what we got. And it's like, yeah, no worries. We gonna work on this over here. So shout out to those two for making it happen. And hopefully it'll blossom into something huge over on Discord. So Charles Reed, welcome to the squad. Glad to have you. Looking forward to having you in the MOBB. HTTR for life. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy HTTR for life writes, once Terry signs, I'll be fully on board the hype. He'll sign. And like I said, built into my discussion tonight was Terry signing. So the assumption was he had already signed. You know, how excited are you for this team going into training camp, assuming Terry signs? I know a lot of you will be a lot more, cautious and even disappointed if that doesn't get done. And so it would change the way you feel. So the assumption is he signs because I expect that to happen before training camp. So how would you feel, with knowing that Terry's back in the fold, full complement of weapons, new quarterback, very doable schedule, a team that seemed to be maturing and getting it, and all of these things that seem to be coming together. It's like a perfect storm. It's a confluence of a lot of good things. What do you put a number on? What number do you put on that for a level of optimism heading into the season? 1 through 10. Mine was a 7. Kind of leaning towards an 8. Anyway, so that was the last comment. I want to thank you guys for joining me tonight. Look forward to chopping it up with you. If anything happens over the weekend with Terry or anything major with this team, I'm here. All right. But assuming that nothing takes place with that situation, everybody's on break. So I'm assuming that they won't come back to work until July, probably early July, early to the mid portion of July is when things will get up and running back at the facilities, and they'll open things back up, and that's when they'll really start to heavily negotiate with Terry's agent and really try to get something done. So I don't think you're going to hear anything for the remainder of June. I don't think you're going to hear anything for the first week of July. I think you'll really start to hear the Terry talks reestablished that second week of July. And by that third week, shit will really intensify to the point where something's going to get done and it becomes imminent. So I think that's what the timeline will look over the next 3 weeks. But in any event, that's going to do it for me, your man, Louie T. I am a Washington fan, etched in burgundy and gold. My Washington spirit will never die. Washington spirit will never fold. Until we meet again, post up. Take command. I thank all of you for chopping it up with the kid tonight. Looking forward to doing this again with you next week. Again, huge shout out to my guy Metaphor for blessing me with the logos. Huge shout out to my guy Big Money Sonny, and of course my girl Condo P for getting that Discord up and running. So a lot of things going on and a lot more in store. Don't you worry. Your guy Louie T is in the lab cooking up crack. So stay tuned. There's more to come. But until then, you guys enjoy the rest of your evening. Look forward to chopping it up with you on the other side. If you are a staunch supporter of the Louie T Network podcast, we'll get an episode of that tomorrow or today if you're on the East Coast past midnight. But you'll get an episode of that today. So be on the lookout for that. But otherwise, I'll see you guys next week. Same time, same place. Until then, God bless and good night.